Welcome everyone. It's May 9th, 2023 at exactly 2 p.m. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. All councilmen are in attendance and we can conduct business. Let the record also show that Town Clerk Gray is also here. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? First item.
I need to, what was that?
I would like to,
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to add one more item to amend the agenda.
So you want to amend that?
Under
Okay.
discussion, to just add one more topic that is workshop scheduling and minutes. I don't think it would take very long.
Okay, so that's right below the
But
future legislation. Oh, below flooding.
yes,
Okay. Workshop minute, what did you say?
workshop scheduling and
Minutes.
minutes.
Okay,
Kirsten, did you?
No, I think what
Okay.
yeah.
Then I move we adopt the agenda as amended.
you just make that motion? Rick?
I did, yes.
You made the motion, so you wanted to make the second?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll second it.
so moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Hearing none opposed, motion carries. Get all that? Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
I so approve, I move.
Okay,
I'll second.
been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay.
Okay. Motion carries. That's
Want me to
okay.
explain?
Oh, it's too late. I've already called it, so.
That's fine.
Sorry. There's usually no discussion on approving minutes or approving unless you want to amend it. And so,
Okay, that's fine. We can just go over the workshop.
okay, that's fine. And it sounds like we've got minutes at the end of this agenda.
And
anyway,
yes.
So, okay,
All right, just clarification. So that was approving the minutes from the April 11th workshop.
correct.
A workshop,
Yeah,
not the actual.
Yes.
council meeting.
Mhm.
Yes, that's tonight. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
okay. So the first item on the
Thank you,
agenda
Claire.
is ordinance 2023-06 appropriations, and it looks like we have Davey is here. Are you gonna take that? Or is Kristen?
I was planning on it.
Oh, good, okay.
To start with, I just tried to share my screen. Did it pop up?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes,
It should just be a summary of that email that I sent out earlier. Is that what y'all are seeing? I hope.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So there were a very limited number of changes. So let me run through them just real quick here and see if I can answer any questions you might have that are pented up on these, and then we'll just stop and let y'all discuss what you want to with regard to the rest of the budget. So the first thing that happened was Rand Bitter actually called over to, I think it was to Debbie's office, and got the actual assessment. So he and I did the math and figured out what our actual property taxes should be based on the assessments and the rates. This is at the 8 mills, of course. And we added 125,000 to the budget in V2. That, of course, drives the second one, which is 3/8 of that goes to the fire department. So that's an extra $46,875 in expenses, which reduced the surplus. This is a surplus these numbers are comparing the surplus from the first version to the second version. So the 125 was good news. The 47,000 is the opposite. Kristen could tell you more about this next one, but there was an equipment purchase that we got a better sense of the pricing on, and it's grapples that went up about $20,000.
Originally, we were quoted 15,000, and then when he went back to say, yes, put our name on these, would like to hold them, he said, actually, now they're 35,000. So,
Slight difference.
yeah.
Yeah. The master plan, I think y'all are going to talk about this later. We'll find out what we really need in the budget, maybe a little bit more detailed after that discussion. But there was 70,000 sitting in there. Based on the discussion a month ago, it seemed like we were not going to engage third-party full-scale consultants. So we just reduced the number to 20,000 to leave something in there if there's some community outreach, hosting of a community event around the master planning process that we do later in the year, or some mailing costs and so on. So we left 20,000 of the 70,000 in there. And we took that other 50, and rather than make a change to the overall budget for it for the moment, I stuck it into healthcare benefits, which is the very next line. And mostly that was to drive a discussion right now about some work that we're doing to investigate potentially different healthcare options for the employees. And I'm going to skip that for 1 second and keep going, and then I'll come back and ask Kathy a question about how she wants to discuss
Okay,
it.
before you go any further.
Yep.
We haven't heard from Wham on the rest of the income.
Good question. We did get the Wham book. And if I just pressed my eyes because I had a small headache saying that, that book is really hard to wade through, and it's very difficult to actually take the numbers they give us and relate it to what we actually get over the course of the year. So I think there was, I mean, I'll have to put more effort into it at some point. I haven't yet, frankly, but I think we've had a false comfort would be my take on it, that we get some book from Wham and it gives us really good numbers, because I think you'll find that neither the budget nor the actuals that roll in end up being anywhere near what Wham gives us. So the shorter answer is we just left everything where it was, which was more based on trending and looking at where historical sales tax revenues primarily have come in, and not trued it up based on the Wham report. I'm hoping to have time when I get back from my little vacation to dig into the Wham book a little bit more and see if I can actually find something that helps us change our budget numbers to something more precise.
Yeah, I think I read something that they're still selling coal like crazy, so the money they get from separating coal from the ground is going to be a little higher, or at least the same as was last year. So
yeah, we've got it a pretty consistent with last year, if I remember properly.
And the higher fire district costs, are those just paid out with like how we regularly pay it? Just
Yeah.
the increased amount is all, it doesn't go out separate or anything?
No,
Okay.
this is just based on, because we've paid them 3 of our 8
Yeah.
bills, so it's based on if we're increasing how much we're getting of the 8, then we also have to increase how much they give.
Of
Get out of
course,
the
yeah, that makes sense.
Same mechanism, same timing, just if we get more money, we give them more money.
Yeah.
By the way, the total that we'll be giving them, if these numbers hold true, is just over 200,000.
Yeah.
206,000, if I remember properly.
Mhm.
So let me come back to employee benefits, if I may, because it's the only thing here that I have some more interesting things to say about. On the capital side, really not much change. I think I screwed up and had the lean-to finishing and the parking lot on the side of the town hall building. I think I had them in both the capital and the expense budget when I made a last-minute change to the V1 budget. So Kristen caught it and realized we had it double counted, so we just took it out of the capital side. So that was my fault that there was a little error there. And then the paving, this is just me being obsessive compulsive. When there's something that's just an estimate, if it looks really precise, people sometimes look at it and say, oh, that must have been a bid, but in fact, there really isn't a bid for the paving down on Brambleberry yet. So I just had us round it to 400,000 in the budget so that we'd know it was a placeholder, just like the bridge is in for 500,000 at this point. It's still just a placeholder until we get something more precise. Make sense?
Yep.
That's all we changed. To Ron's point, I think that was Ron that asked, we definitely need to dig into Wham, and I intend to do that, the revenue numbers, and see if we can find out anything that we might be missing there. I'll do that in the next several weeks, certainly before we reconvene in June to look at the V3 of the budget. And Kathy, are you okay if I just spend a couple of minutes on the healthcare stuff now and kind of get everyone else up to speed on what we're doing?
Absolutely.
So, hey guys, this was, I sent an email, so I'm probably just going to repeat some of what was in there, but this was my idea. I have a bunch of experience with health benefits, and I looked at our plan and it was the strangest plan design I've ever seen. I didn't understand why. And it didn't look particularly cheap when I saw some summarized data in the budget. I've subsequently decided to dig into this. I mentioned to Kathy and Kristen, of course, that I'd like to look into this and see if there was a win here, that we wouldn't spend a bunch more money, but we could probably get, what would be more traditional benefits. The way the employees have to get their healthcare benefits today is incredibly complicated. There's actually 6 different vendors involved in getting a healthcare need satisfied by an employee. Whereas for me, for example, and probably most of us sitting here on the phone, we have Blue Cross, or we have Aetna, or we have somebody. We have one insurance policy. Well, in fact, our employees have 6 different providers. They have an underlying healthcare company called Trustmark. They have something called Morgan and White, I think it is, which is a quote unquote gap insurance, which I had to go get educated on. It apparently then plugs in some of the gaps if you actually need it, and it sits on top of the underlying healthcare. Then we have an Aflac-like product, which, and there's two of those in fact, and one of them, they're both basically designed to pay the employee some cash if they actually have a healthcare event, whether it's an accident or otherwise. And that helps them chip in towards their deductibles and out of pockets. And then there's a Sterling, Sterling Urgent Care membership is purchased for all of the employees, again, because the underlying plan isn't great and they could maybe just go to Sterling and get it handled cheaper, easier, faster. And I'm even missing one. Then there's a Teladoc and an app that can give them some access to some healthcare as well. So there's literally 6 pieces to it. And a quick discussion with the employees will tell you that they don't really know how to use it. I wouldn't know how to use it. And they're probably, and a lot of them are not turning in claims or they're not sure where to go. It's just very complicated. So you have to scratch your head. I finally found out why. And the why is the following. It was way cheaper, as it turns out, than getting a traditional decent plan with a reasonable deductible and a reasonable max out of pocket and all that. The rates that we're paying when I dug into it are actually pretty darn low. I'll use an example. The employees on their own, to get the base, the first layer of the 6th, the base healthcare is $360 a month is what we pay for a premium. Contrast that with just picking out of myself, my wife and mine's, we pay about $1,200 each a month for our healthcare under Blue Cross. So, you know, it's a fraction, and we got a bid from Blue Cross that looks just like that too for the town. So, you know, it's much cheaper, and then therefore you add all these other elements on so that you can try and make it palatable to the employees, because that cheap plan has a $3,500 max out of pocket and a $3,500 deductible and a $6,800 max out of pocket. So they're just huge numbers on a $50,000 salary or $60,000 salary for someone to stomach. So they then added these other 5 layers to try and make that cheaper for them. So I'm spewing a lot of stuff to you guys in a minute that I've learned over 3 weeks, but suffice to say, it's a pretty complicated plan. So it was worth looking at the more traditional options that we might have, just to see if there's a potential here to make a simpler, better healthcare option available to our employees. So I'll stop there. That's really what I've been working on.
Okay, so let me ask a question to you. You were the mayor. Who designed this plan for us?
The combination of, originally the town administrator started searching into it, and partnered with Summit out of Jackson. They're the insurance broker that we've been dealing with, and they kind of help administrate it. But this last, I want to say it was at the beginning of 2022, is when we switched kind of primary carriers from, we were Allied before and now we're Trustmark, basically because of the complication and the high deductibles. And this was supposed to have been better, but it's actually just been as bad, or if not worse. You know.
So let me give you a little more history. We've used, the town, since the town was formed, has used Blue Cross Blue Shield through WHAM. And that's what we had. And probably about 3 years, a little over 3 years ago, there was a big push to kind of lower our expenses. And insurance is one of those healthcare things, is one of the things that we definitely looked at. So the town administrator at the time was Evan, and he went to this program thinking that it might be a better solution for us financially. The challenge is once we walked away from Blue Cross Blue Shield with WHAM, we had to wait 3 years before would be accepted again. So that's kind of where we are today. And thank you, Dave, for looking into this. We've known it's been a problem for a long time. It's been a deterrent in recruiting. So yeah, that's how we got here. That's a kind of a quick run of how we got here.
So is there a dental version of that, or Envision?
We have Delta Dental and VSP of Wyoming.
And that has to change.
Those benefits are quite similar to what's in the marketplace.
Yeah.
There's no real
Okay.
issue with those two minor
Yep.
coverages.
So those are in addition to the 6 that you,
Correct.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. So Ron's question is a good one. How did we get here? It turns out, everything Kathy just said, of course, but also there are interesting options to us as a municipality, far more than if we were just a little company, for example. So the first choice for a little company is just to go get their own plan through any of the, go directly to Blue Cross or who have you. Those are very expensive in this day and age. I already got that bid from Blue Cross, and I can almost not say how much it was. It was probably 60% more than what we're paying, so about $80,000 more than the total cost of this. The total cost of the healthcare to the town is about $160,000 to $170,000 for the at 12 employees. So I did this all based on a full staff of 12 employees. So it'd be about $167,000 a year for the full staff of 12, just for the medical side. The other things like life insurance, a little bit that we get, and dental and vision, they're small for one, but they're all pretty much the same. So I took them out of the analysis for the moment. So we spent about 170,000, call it, rounded up. The small group option, and I'd have to pull it up at my fingertips, is something like $230,000. That's the bad news. The good news is we're actually eligible to participate in 2 large groups and try to benefit from the economy of scale and spreading risk across, thousands of employees instead of 12 employees. And so we should theoretically be able to get a much better deal through one of these big groups. There are 2. One is WHAM, and it's large, and there's cities around here that are in it. I can't remember them off the top of my head because today I was working on the other option, which is something called the Wyoming Education Benefits Trust, which was originally formed to group together all the school districts in the state and get them a nice big cheaper plan for the entire population of school district employees across Wyoming. They subsequently have enabled any Wyoming municipality to join that group. It's called WEBT. I only had my first conversation with them yesterday. We're going to try and get a bid from them as well. That plan could be very interesting. I'm actually really looking forward to getting that bid because they self-insure at the macro group level. And typically self-insurance is cheaper than just buying an indemnity plan. So we're going to get a healthy slate of options for you guys to look at and to consider, this much coverage, much better, more money. What is it? I'll have all that for you at the next workshop to evaluate in time to make a change to the budget if we wanted to.
Dave, even though we don't have all those numbers from the new insurance companies you're looking at, is budgeting with the 50,000, are you saying that would get us up to about 230 if we had better insurance roughly? And then, so the 50,000 should take care of that, right?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And budget more, you think?
Yeah, I was hoping that it would be more than enough. The initial look is that it's probably going to be either just enough or short, but I'll tell you, I've done everything short of literally driving up there and twisting the Blue Cross agent's arm on WHAM to get her to give me a gut estimate so I could answer that question intelligently today. She won't do it. She just says, I can't do it until we get the answers back from the underwriters. So she said it could be more or less or the same as your small group plan. I'm like, that's awesome. I'll tell them that tomorrow. So well, I will have numbers for you. You'll get them as soon as I have a chance to digest them and put them on a spreadsheet. But my hope is that the 50,000 is the order of magnitude we're talking about. And then we can have the conversation about affordability, but let's at least find out what the options are is my approach to this, and then lay it out clearly for everyone.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. We're doing a bunch of work. Kristen and even the employee, Kristen's doing some work. Unfortunately, you have to actually ask the employees for some healthcare data if you even want to go out and get quotes from alternatives. So we did have to ask the employees. I mentioned to Kristen to be very careful about managing expectations with the employees, that we're going to look into something, but there's no guarantees of what we're going to go with. We may or may not make a change, but we need your help to even consider a change. So the employees are aware that we're looking into healthcare alternatives. Kristen or Kathy, do y'all want to add anything to what I've said?
No, I think I'm pretty excited about it, actually.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate all the work you're doing there, Dave, on this.
Yeah, happy to, honestly. If we can get something that's affordable, I think this could be very important for our employees. I personally would be daunted by the way they have to try and use the plan. It actually would take a long time to even explain to you how they're supposed to use the plan. It's really complicated.
I think that's probably how we ended up with the Sterling Urgent Care memberships for everybody, because it was way less complicated for us to just go in there and and see somebody versus trying to navigate
Mhm.
everything else with it, so.
And I'll surface one other thing that I've just lived through everywhere I implemented plans and new changes. The real cost in these plans comes from family care, and it's a delicate thing to talk through, so I'll try to be delicate, but it's traditional for the employer to pay for the employee. Okay. And employers always pay somewhere between 90% and 100% of the premiums. The employees might kick in a little bit for best practice, but never more than 10% typically. On the other hand, paying for the rest of a family is, quite an interesting topic, right? If you're a single employee, your benefits plan might cost $10,000 a year, but your colleague who makes the same salary gets $20,000 in benefits because they have a family. And so the question comes up, how much should the town pay of the spouse and children's coverage? And I've seen everything from companies that design their benefits so that the employee has to pay for half of their family's care, in terms of the premium, I should say. And I've seen companies and organizations like us where we actually pay the same 90%, more or less, for anyone. If you have 3 people on our policy, we'll pay 90% of the premium, the employer will pay 10. If you have 1 person, it's the same. So typically you'll see something more like 10% from the employee for their own coverage. But then if they want to bring their family on, they've got to pay a bigger percentage. That's something I'm going to do math on and take a look at. We have a pretty small town, and we do have a pretty heterogeneous group of employees. We have a lot of employees without a spouse on the plan, and we have some with a spouse and 2 kids. And so it's all over the map. We just have to be careful about how we do that, because that's where these plan costs can go through the roof. For example, Blue Cross might be $10,000 for an employee, but it'll literally be $30,000 for a family. And so how much should the town pay for the person who has a $10,000 policy, and how much should the town pay for someone who has a $30,000 policy? That's probably the toughest decision, other than the total pool of funds we're going to tie up here, that I think we'll have to deal with in the next month.
And what were you saying we do now? We do pay full, right, for the families? Yeah, okay.
We pay, we don't do it on a percentage basis. We have fixed amounts, and I'm going to find them so I don't misspeak, but we make the employee pay $30 a paycheck. And if they have a +1, we make them pay $60 a paycheck. And if they have 2 or +2 or more, we make them pay $85 a paycheck. And so it's kind of a linear, not even quite linear increase, but yet the costs are going up the same. So interestingly, if you have a family, you're probably paying less percentage of your premium than you are if you're just a single person, because we're only asking for $85 for a family versus $30 for 1 person. So it's actually kind of the reverse of how you'd expect to see it. So in the end, if we end up with way better coverage for them, one of the quid pro quos might be that we change the employee skin in the game payment that they have to make towards this nice coverage.
And that's why you pay HR big bucks to administer this, because there's an advantage to having people with families work for us. They're a little more, probably maybe a little committed to work. I don't know. They'll stay perhaps. You might be, I'm not sure it might be better employees. I'm not sure it's good or bad. So I'm just speaking off the top of my head here as the pros and cons of this incentives or whatever. So.
Yep. By the way, there's another aspect to this that I've implemented and had very interesting results with historically. Now, this might not be the same here, but I'll give you an example to put the thought in your mind. In the Bay Area, most couples, both people work, and most people work in good jobs that come with great benefits. When I worked at big tech companies, my wife or girlfriend worked at a big tech company. And so what people would do, if the companies didn't charge a bunch to put your spouse on your plan, they didn't charge the employee a fee for that, I would sign my wife up and myself through my insurance, and then she would do the same at her company. And so we'd all end up with double insurance. And the only person that suffered from that was the companies, because they paid for 2 people's premiums on each end. And so 30 years ago, companies figured out that was happening. And they said, well, what we really should do is, if someone has a spouse who has a great job that comes with its own great insurance, let's not do anything to incent them to bring that spouse onto our plan. Let's do everything we can to incent them to leave their spouse on their employer's plan. How do you do that? quite simply, you give people money if they opt out in some ways. So a lot of times you can even convince an employee to go on their spouse's plan if you give them $100 back in their paycheck here. You do have to verify that they have good insurance somewhere else that meets the ACA minimums. But then you can pay your employees, $100 a paycheck if they choose not to take insurance. And I found that worked really well in many places where people had good jobs on both sides of the family. I don't know if that fits here, but it's something we should consider as well.
Yeah, I think we for sure, we have one person, but yeah, that, my prior life, that's how we did it too.
Yeah.
So
So-
it made sense.
So I think we're going to have a decision. So I'll just summarize by saying, I think we're going to have a decision once I get all the data and can lay it out.
Okay.
What are the plans? Can we afford them? Which one is the right one? I hope we get an opportunity to find something we can afford there. But then the second decision will be, how do we design this employee contribution mechanism to be fair to all employees, but also to incent them to not double dip on insurance, and if their spouse has good insurance, leave the spouse there. And so that's where you get into the sort of social engineering of this, and that'll be something I'd like to have discussion about as well once we get there.
Okay.
That's it.
Cool. Are you gonna stick around for a minute?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And
Okay,
before we go past the budget, anybody else have anything that we should be? We should probably capture a list of things.
Yeah, I had one item. It's on the water side. I'm not sure you have anything here. It's the payment for the Green Canyon relining. Most of the water board feels that that's a capital improvement as
Good
opposed to an expense.
Yep.
So
It is. We've put it there now. It's that.
Did you
It's
put-
that way
did you
in
put
the
it-
budget.
you put it in the capital?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it's in operating dollars or capital, but
It's capital. Yeah, it wasn't last time. You are correct, Ron. In V2, we moved it. It was actually in both last time because I'm a dummy, but it's in capital now, and that's the only place it is, right,
and the
Krista?
amount
It
is
is,
still
Yeah.
170,
170.
although
yes.
we don't have an engineering spec done yet with an estimate.
That was based on the numbers that Ryan gave us. That
Okay,
was, that was the direct quote with his engineering based on the company, the only company that can do it.
okay, so you've got a good basis for that number.
Yes.
Okay,
Other budget stuff?
Kirsten had some stuff.
Yes, I think everybody received the email I sent out about the fire hydrant quotes
Yeah.
and the amount that it was. So, this was just a quote from someone who also was doing driveways and such and has a business doing that during the winter. I think the quote's probably pretty accurate because he broke down some more numbers and I think kind of what he threw out to Willie, even as an estimate, Willie seemed to think that was kind of along those lines. I don't know long-term how well we could maintain that. But I am wondering if we need to do it at least for one season of snow to see if we can't get something under control for fire hydrants and plowing a little bit. So,
so who was the name of the company that did that?
the company is the plow guy that I sent you guys yesterday,
Okay,
or last night.
okay, I saw the quote from Mayor, which is Outfit in Afton that did that.
No, that one's for the roads.
Right, okay. So what was the quote for the plow guy?
The fire hydrants,
The fire hydrants, how much was it?
188,000. I'm sorry, Ron, I thought I sent it to everyone.
Well, I didn't,
I
Okay.
sent it last night because I didn't get it till yesterday.
Yeah, isn't it?
Is it on it? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it is for November 1st through April
Yeah, this
30th.
was for-
So I mean, which this winter would have been great, you
Yeah.
know? But do we need it that long? And, maybe, I don't know. I know you were the one that talked with him, but if it is a large amount of money, but that is a long span of time too.
basically the whole
Yeah.
season that we would need.
Yeah. I guess the question I have is, this is the first year we really had problems keeping up, but we also have now 240 hydrants.
Yeah.
Which continues to grow every year.
Yeah, And I
So,
don't know that it's the first one, like, because I think I've heard of other people and I know we emailed the town last year about them. Actually,
So I have a question for Dave. Would it make more sense? To hire an additional employee to do this? It would be a lot cheaper.
So it's a great question that none of us have the answer to. Yeah, so it's a good question though. I have a couple of comments in general on the use of contractors. I think first of all, the most recent data point is always the most powerful data point. We just had the largest snowfall in the history of the town of Star Valley Ranch and the coldest winter and the longest winter of snow on the ground. So it could happen again, but history would suggest it may not. So, we want to be careful. I just would advise us to be a little bit careful about designing for that scenario in general. But the other question is more broad. And I know you guys are all struggling with this. So I'll try not to just state the obvious, but it's really the public works director's job to decide the right strategy for taking care of our roads to the design spec that the town gives them. So what are the service levels that we want? When do we want snow cleared? How many inches of fall? And so on. And so I know why we are where we are and that, people are sort of wanting to solve the problem from 5 different angles. But I do worry that we don't have sort of a cohesive, comprehensive answer. And an easy way to visualize it is with regard to the hydrants. As Kathy said, we really haven't had too much of a problem doing the hydrants in most years. But we did certainly last year. We had an unacceptable problem clearing the hydrants, not because people didn't work hard or we didn't have, the right stuff. We just didn't have enough hours in the day and everything else. So I just worry that getting contractors on top of a 12-person staff, which we only had for like a month and a half last year. We budgeted for 12, but we didn't have 12 for more than 1 or 2 months, Kristen.
Yeah,
And certainly not for the heat of the middle of the winter. And so, we're sort of budgeting for dollars on the employee side to help us solve this problem. We do, by the way, I think have a need to ensure that we have redundant equipment for mission critical things, because we saw that problem for sure last year. And so adding contractor dollars on top of it without sort of stepping back and answering Kathy's question, which is what is the right way to do this? What's the most cost effective, but also the highest quality way to ensure that it gets done? That's sort of the thing that's just swimming in my mind as we think about adding contractor dollars to the budget. The other thing, of course, is, and this is not a criticism, although it may sound like one, quoting that is very hard, but to give us a quote of $188,000 for something, clearing the hydrants, but I don't know if it's clearing the hydrants within 4 hours of a 4-inch snow or 2 days of a 4-inch snow. It's just such a big round number. I mean, we would need to see a real analysis and have a way of pushing against it from our staff, saying that's just completely out of line, or that's reasonable, or I could never do it for that with my staff if that's what our public works folks said. It'd be hard for me to even get my head around a decision without having that kind of information. So the long-winded answer, the short answer would be, I'm in favor of getting flex resources, because I don't think we ever want to build a town staff that's big enough to handle that nth degree winter. I think that would be extremely expensive and that we wouldn't need it in most years. So I think we should have a mix of contract work capabilities and our own capabilities. I don't know what that mix should be. I think it's a much longer conversation. And so I heard someone else say what I'm about to say. I think it might have been Rue, but I honestly can't remember. It could have been Kristen. We should probably put something in the budget that helps us remember to focus on having those discussions and driving a real analysis of the mix of our workforce between onboarded and contracted. And so to me, it would make a lot of sense to put some money in the budget to define it in 5 sentences. What is it we think this money might do? And then to take, a couple more months at least to figure out, what the actual right strategy is for clearing the roads to a standard. And frankly, we have the same things around summer work on the roads as well.
so I can add a little bit to this, because I did have this discussion with Will about it. What he thought if, so he says that on top of, so we had 3 open positions, we have filled 2, we still have an open position. But on top of that, he said if we can get another person, so we would have 2 open positions, it wouldn't have been a problem. Because, and even keeping that person all throughout the summer as well, because he could absolutely use an extra person during the summer as well. And And he thinks that would have been it wouldn't have been a problem keeping the hydrants clean, because that would have given him basically 2 crews. A main night plowing crew and then a day crew for taking care of things that needed to be done during the day. Not having a full crew all winter long was a hindrance. And the fact that we still don't have a full crew as of today. But
So I think we're like part of the idea of contracting would also eliminate our issues that we've had with employment. And at least until we can get a handle on why we're losing employees and how we keep up, which, I mean, who knows about the insurance incentives and such, what that might do for our employees too, but I think that if they do need more people, the cost 188,000 and we hire 2 new people and they're each costing almost 80,000 with their benefits, it's gonna be almost even with what we would get out of a contractor and less headache with equipment and employees. Because that's been our biggest excuse so far of not being able to accomplish what we needed to do. And I don't want to be in that situation again.
Can I ask, I mean, I haven't talked to Willie, but if theoretically, if he had the 2 crews, did we have the right equipment for them to even do that?
Absolutely.
Because, and I don't know the details.
because that was the other part of the question, was that if we did get another person, will we also need more equipment? And he says no.
So I don't know what the plow guy, like what he would use to clear around a hydrant, for instance.
It was,
Then
two- no, he wasn't gonna use.
I don't think so.
He was gonna use 2 tractors with blowers,
Okay.
even if he
Yeah,
just.
because
got
I mean,
them
I've-
handle them.
The one time last winter when I saw him using the front loader to clear around a hydrant, they knocked the top off of the hydrant because it's, to me, it seems like a big cumbersome piece of equipment to
And
try
it's
and be
slow.
delicately going around a hydrant. So that's why I was asking, because I don't really know.
Kristen,
We have,
Kristen cleared hydrants
Yeah.
for many years, because the water
You might have
department
been
has
more
historically
delicate
always
at it,
done. This was,
Um,
so what do you use?
I've used a loader, I've also used the backhoe, I've
Mhm.
also used a skid steer is a small piece of equipment, was the worst piece of equipment to do with it. The backhoe, the common, because I use the bucket on the backhoe, but I've also used the blade on the loader. Both of those are probably the
Yeah.
best way to do it.
I was told by the plow guy that he would have himself and 2 other gentlemen. The tractors with the blowers, he said he could clear them all in 2 to 3 days. When I talked to Willie, it was 2 weeks. I know mine got cleared once this whole season. So
Well, let me say this, we already have money in the budget for contractors, because we use contractors for a lot of different things, mostly in the summer, we've historically done it. So it's not necessarily a separate line item. Because we already have that, right? I can't remember what it's called.
Was
I'm
it
looking
where?
at
There
Kristen,
is one, yeah.
called.
It's gonna be part of the operations, but
Part of the
in
operations.
in the details
Okay,
section, there is a line item for contractor
I,
labor.
is there a way to, I think this should be separate from that, just because we can't seem to even get a handle on how much our own plowing costs us. I think that this,
mainly because we don't budget that way, because we're so small, we have not historically.
I mean, it would just be a matter of sitting down and figuring it out. It's not necessarily that we break it out.
Right, okay,
But you can obviously tell anything that happens in December, January, February is probably
plowing.
plowing.
yeah, so we can tell by their time cards.
I think I also was hoping to do. I mean, not a certain contractor, but if we were to, it would allow.
Now, would this have to go to bid? We have a question, go ahead.
Well, I'm just curious, we put the contractor on, accept the contractor on a standby basis. We don't need probably plowing for the hydrants from October to May. You know, like my own experience, I was clearing my own hydrant. And I pretty much stopped, about first week of April. So it's a shorter term. And if our town people, if our crews can do it, especially if we hire somebody, it seems like then we don't need the contractor. But if either we have an equipment problem, which is one of the excuses we got this year, and or a staff shortage problem, and we have contractors on standby that we can say, okay, hey, you know, XYZ come in here, we need hydrants. And maybe even parking lots clear. I guess we've got what, 4 parking lots we clear?
Yeah.
If we toss that in on it, that would alleviate the burden.
Two. be clear. Anyway, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, because
Yeah.
when we got in trouble and we got behind, and I know Kristen tried to help me find somebody that could do them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't set up some-
Too late, yeah.
Cause I know some of the, especially the Airbnb people. That have their driveways done, they don't have their driveways cleared all winter, most of them don't. They have them cleared when they know they have a client coming. Now, we're a much bigger client,
Mhm.
but I'm thinking we could do the same kind of thing. Where if the town's crew can't get to it, we could then activate someone that we've got on standby. And maybe that costs us a little money up front. That if we never use them, might seem like a waste, but they're there
Right.
if we need them.
Yeah, and we do that in the summer with road base, with trucking companies, if we need quite a bit of hauling done, because we have one little dump truck, so. So we'll usually call, we have certain companies we work with all the time that we just call and they come and help us. And then they bill us for the time,
I
so
do have
similar
a
situation.
question about it is, the other thing on the other side of this is for
Yeah.
the contractor is. Who's liable for damages and
Yeah.
who's supplying equipment and.
Well,
that
I
kind of
was
thing.
told that that's all on the contractor. So the gentleman who did this, he understood that was all his liability then, because that's what Willie said, and we were, I know we had talked briefly about using equipment, but Willie said that wasn't an option for him.
No, it's not. So our insurance.
So-
There are times, and I don't know if you guys know that, but there are times when we'll hit a tree. Or something will happen in the plowing and then the resident will file a claim with our liability insurance, they take care of it. But if we have a contractor, they're not gonna touch it at all. None of it will be insured, and so that
It's
person
all
would
on the-
be 100% responsible.
Contractor has the same responsibility when they do a driveway, if they,
Yeah.
if they knock over your personal hydrant. That's on them, they have to fix that, and they're responsible for the damages that may cause too.
I mean, I don't know completely, I didn't really have a chance to talk to Willie too much about this part. But I do feel like if the equipment's breaking and we're having employment issues, that maybe it is something where we do need to put more funding into our plowing. And so obviously this is a huge amount of money, but I'm also like, if that allows us to do the job we're supposed to be doing and do it better, then it might be something we have to look at. As far as an employee, you know, that might come along eventually, but I think we need to get through August and have some HR and customer service done before we bring more people into a possibly toxic situation. So
Can I ask a question about staffing? If there is a full staff, does that account for plowing on the weekends?
They plow it.
We weren't getting plowing on the weekends this year, and we had emergency services come to our house.
Okay.
And they said if it had been on the weekend, they wouldn't have been able to get to us, and we have an elderly man above us that has been. He's had to have emergency services several times, and so I'm really concerned with people in the neighborhood that we have a woman that's expecting and an elderly man, and our roads.
Where do you live?
We are up on Oak
Okay.
above
Oh,
Aspen Hills.
Okay, yep, I know where you
Yeah.
are, way up there.
And I mean, there were times that, you know, we couldn't get out of our driveway at all.
Mhm.
And I just, you know, especially based on the feedback from emergency services, I think there's a big liability for those elderly folks that are above us.
Mhm. Okay, that's good to know. Because I wasn't aware of that. We got a
Yeah.
problem with that road particularly.
And the woman who's expecting, she's on Blackwood.
It's
And that also
That's your neighbor.
didn't get, she wasn't able to get in and out of her driveway
Okay.
often.
I think also, I mean, if we don't even go a contractor's route, just having something. Especially before that, even the middle of summer, I think having it. Along with the budget, having the timeline be that we have some expectations, kind of like Dave was saying. Set for our plowing, because you're right, they did plow on weekends a couple times, but there were times when they weren't and it needed to be done. And so there might be some other things that we can do, either with snow monitoring. with, you know, I mean, there's a list that we go through once we're having.
And we're gonna schedule a meeting with the Public Works Department.
Well, so in the meantime, should we? Put a wedge, I think that's what I called it, a wedge of 150, 200K in the budget for. The potential of contracted services through the winter. You know, and that would give us some more time to then look into, like, maybe the plow guy would give a quote from January through March. Or maybe there's other resources we haven't explored, just to then have something and know. At what point would we then have to commit to a contract? Because they're not, obviously not gonna, we
Yeah.
try in December or January like we did this last time,
Yeah.
you know, you're over a barrel, so you don't wanna do that.
We did talk last month, I think, about having an emergency reserve. Not part of the budget, but a reserve sitting there for emergencies that was authorized to spend if necessary. That way it wouldn't be part of the budget, but it would be a reserve. Is that an appropriate use of money or reserve or not?
It could be, you would have to just,
Have to allocate it.
you'd have to allocate it, yeah, you could do it through resolution and they would do an amendment at the end of the year if you needed to. But you could do it that way. Or you could use it as a holding place and just put it in with the contractors. Councilman, you had a question?
Yeah, I've heard three different issues here.
Mhm,
You got one on the roads on the weekend,
mhm.
you got one on the fire hydrant, and then you brought up the berms that you can't get out of your driveways. I haven't heard anything here that relates to berms on the driveways, so your plow guy would only be doing fire
We
hydrants,
did
not
give
the
me a
berms.
quote for the berms too.
Yeah,
Okay, but that would be over and above the 1.8.
Yes, it would,
188,000.
yeah, and I can send that to
substantially.
everybody too.
How many?
Well, we'd have to change our town policy if we're gonna start plowing berms, because right now policy is we plow into the town right away and
Right,
we're not responsible for clearing berms out of people's driveways, so.
and yeah,
I do feel like part of the berm issue, or part of the snow plowing issue was the berms, and it may have been because they were only plowing once in a 24-hour period, and then you have a foot of snowfall, or especially this winter, there was a lot of snow falling in a 24-hour period.
yeah, awesome.
And if it was over the weekend, so then it was even extended. Then they are plowing that huge amount of snow out of the roads, so our berms seem excessive because of that, I think, because
We didn't have a problem with berms with consistent plowing. To that point, when it would build up for several days, that's when the issues arose.
But I'm not sure the berms are a result of when you're not plowing. I mean, if you plow twice during the weekend, you're gonna have just a bigger berm.
Yeah, but
They're not gonna clear the berms out of driveways.
No, but what I'm saying is like a 4-foot berm versus a foot berm or even 6 inches, because the snow hasn't accumulated on the road as much.
Yeah.
And I do remember, you know, when we first moved here, I was having to plow or move snow in my driveway maybe twice a day, but it was a lot more doable, and I'm wondering if that would help. But that's also part of, like, if we could get a handle on our plowing so that it's working for our citizens, that might be
Are you
part of
saying we don't have a handle now?
I would say we had no handle this last season, for sure. The season before wasn't great either. And, you know, since you asked, yeah, that's my personal opinion. It was.
Okay,
not-
but what you're asking is that the town take on more expense of clearing berms out of driveways.
I
Okay.
do understand that, and that's why I didn't even include that quote, because quite honestly, I'm happy to just help us improve as we're going. If eventually that's something that a plat wants to get together with, I suggest it to Taylor and get their own contractor to do all their berms. But if we could allow our workers to be able to work more than once in a 24-hour period, clearing snow off of our roads, it wouldn't be huge berms, it would be
Well,
smaller.
they can. I mean, if they got the hours left, they could work twice in a 24-hour period, can't they? If you get that much snow.
It's kind of like,
With
you
all
gotta
this
have the
snow-
number of people, you gotta sleep sometime.
Yeah, well, and
Like-
it's. No,
If I could interject, in answer to your question about do we have a handle on the plowing, Ron? If our plow drivers, I'm not trying to be disparaging, were more skillful, the berms would be less problematic. I had several impassable berms on my driveway this year. Some of it on days when it didn't snow and hadn't for 2-3 days, but they came along and did cleanup and then dumped ice boulders that even when I was 19 years old and benching 250, I couldn't move. And I'm not a heavy equipment operator, but I have operated heavy equipment, done some grading with it. And I know that with just a little movement of a lever, which I understand now is not even a lever on newer equipment, my experience is almost 30 years ago. You can angle that plow blade when you come to a driveway or an opening and not deposit 3 foot by 3 foot of snow in what the town considers this right of way. And I do have a little exception. The right of way is not for snow storage where egress is a factor. It's fine for snow storage where egress isn't a factor, but when we're talking about a driveway, I notice the town doesn't leave itself a berm. Egress is a considerable consideration. I had a situation with my mother-in-law 2 years ago where we had a berm and she had emergency services come, and it took about 6 of us to get her over that berm. She's lucky that I like her.
Everybody likes you.
If it had been my first mother-in-law, I wouldn't have.
You know, this is part of the public meeting, right? So, okay.
I don't care. My first
All right.
mother-in-law isn't here.
So, Dave, kind of help us get through this.
Yeah.
On,
I would,
I mean, this reading is ready to go, so we're not gonna make any changes today.
it'd be easiest certainly to do that and to take advantage of the fact that we can do another iteration. And so, with that said, everything that I just heard is consistent with what I kind of expected to hear. We've been having this conversation for a couple of months that, thankfully, I think it's a good and important topic. I'm probably going to land where I was a minute ago, which is where Rue is, that I personally don't believe we're ready to engage or not engage any additional resources on our roads. I know that we all probably believe we need additional resources of all types, equipment, manpower, contracted. But that's going to take a bunch of work, and it's going to take work along the lines of what Ron just said, which is, wait, we want to change the service level, AKA the policy for doing berms. Maybe, I don't know. It was tough here, Ron. There were times when I broke equipment trying to get through the berm and broke my car another time. So yeah, it was brutal. Whether we can afford that, whether we could deliver that service level, because we might need 30 employees, I don't know. But we should go through that work. We should go through that work for a service level on hydrants, a service level on berms. Whether, we'll decide at the end if we can't afford it. A service level on weekend plowing. Look, the reason this got heated 2 meetings ago or 1 meeting ago was because some of the town employees took it as, well, people are telling us we're lazy or unskilled. I personally am not saying any of that. They worked their tails off this winter. The problem was it wasn't enough resources. And so, we could nitpick and say, oh, we wish we had this better, that better. I'll set that aside because frankly, I think the bigger issue is we just didn't have enough resources. So let's put a placeholder in the budget in the next draft, because we're not even going to have this solved by the next draft.
No.
And we need people, and I'll volunteer, although I'm having surgery and I'll be a little sidelined, but I'll volunteer. And obviously some of you folks, Kristen's put a ton of time in this already, and Willie, because we need our public works director to drive this. We got to have a 2 or 3 month process to, by September, come up with a real roads plan with service levels. And if we change them from the town, then the town council will decide if they want to change them or not. But that's what people are expecting now, especially those of us that lived here through the winter. Something needs to change. But I'm just not in favor of right now in May saying we're going to change this, this, and this, because I just don't think we know enough.
I agree with that. I agree with that. That's a comment. There's been comments in the past about having a board or a committee that specifically focuses on roads, because I think we have a lot of experience in the community of people that have had to manage that. Is that still, this seems like the perfect
I think that's,
opportunity to
I think that's
consult.
still on the table as far as just a citizen committee, something like that.
Great, that's good.
But I think my challenge, and I know Councilman Merrill has talked about doing this a lot, is what are they actually going to do? So that's kind of, because all of our boards have rules and regulations, and this is what you do, and those kind of things. So that would be the same with this if we decide to go forward with that. And I mean, there's other things that we need, like public safety. So, but yeah, that has been discussed. All right, so I think we're good on budget.
Anything else on the budget? Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see the next one.
Just need us to pass.
Right. That's the kind of
Right.
budget.
So I'm just gonna summarize what's open on the budget in my mind then for Kristen and I to know what to work on. So the open question around potentially changing the town's health benefits for employees. We've got that, and we've got a placeholder in the budget for it. Adding plowing resources of one sort or another. We don't have a placeholder, but we are committed to at least putting a placeholder in by June. A wedge or, some estimate to hold the dollars in the budget. We will have room for some amount. Obviously, we had a $600,000 surplus last time we looked at the budget. And the third thing is I'll take on looking at the WAM data and see if I can further refine our revenue estimates. Other than those three things, should we be working on anything on the budget, guys?
It's the next item on the agenda, but it's a very small little ad for the
Do you want-
budget.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the service, yeah.
Yep, got it. Fourth item.
So we can move on to number 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks, Dave.
Councilman Rock, I'm gonna let you talk about that.
Okay, so was it last week? I don't know where the time has gone. Last week, we had a demo from a company called Granicus that does short-term rental monitoring, and I believe the council all received the demo briefing slides that were provided along with a quote from the company. I'm gonna ask Kristen to please jump into. I thought what they could offer for less than $5,000 a year was well worth us considering adding to the budget. It'd be basically determining how many short-term rentals are operating with their service that they provide and their algorithms and web crawlers and whatnot. Then providing, actually I had it pulled up, compliance monitoring. Actually, it gets set up so that they, once we work with them, we get it set up, they'll send out letters, reminders to people, let them know they haven't paid, need to pay, whatever the situation is. And then they would also provide a 24/7 monitoring service that residents could use them to call to work issues with an owner of a short-term rental that isn't responsive or responding.
So does that, and I just wanted to clarify that so right now it's like kind of our SMO gets those calls. So
Yes,
they would get them and like deal with them 24/7 like directly.
yes.
So they actually had an option on there to where not only could they call somebody, but they could just text. If it can be
Yes.
solved over text of, hey, I'm gonna text the responsible party. So they take care of it.
Yeah.
Because right now what happens if they call at 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday, you're probably not gonna get Jim to answer his phone
Yeah.
because it's 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday. And so this being 24/7, it's way more responsive. They can build the reports on, say, we have a problem property and hey, you've had 10 complaints in the last month in this one property. And we can build that information. We have documented information of here's all the complaints that have happened. So
And right now Jamie does most of the sending of the
if
letters.
we ever get notified of a complaint, because that's the other side of it, is if we never know about it, then we never
Right.
know about it.
And this way, when that, say there is a problem house or rental out there, the next year when they come in for a permit, does the town then look at that file and go, wow, do we really want to keep permitting this property?
Mhm.
Or we need to tell them they need to clean it up or something.
So
And
this-
that's a question I had. We implemented that new software that Jamie people using to keep track of status of permits and reports
It's
and
not
that kind of
fully
stuff.
implemented yet. It's still in the setup phase.
That's iWorks.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
how
that
it's-
works.
and that
Let me-
doesn't do the same thing that this will do.
So I think Councilman Ellis has you have something else.
After our presentation, I went back in and I got curious. Because nobody could tell me what the database file was underneath it. But it turns out SCADA, Cassell, iWorksQ, Text.Government, all run something called MySQL. Getting into it in more depth, Americas also does planning, permits, plans, what's the other one? The gyms,
Citations.
citations, etc. they've got modules to do that too, so. And I'm sitting here wondering why we have got text.gov sends out text messages and allows citizens to complain. We've got other software that does the same thing. So do we need all 6?
So we don't, we
Different
only
softwares?
have Text My Gov.
Right now.
So we have iWorks, so,
And so iWorks and Text My Gov are not the same.
Right.
They're not,
But you also got SCADA and Cassell. They will both tie in to this software.
yeah, but they're not gonna perform the same functions. Just
Uh,
because they use the same database processing doesn't mean that they're performing the same
You know,
functions.
But what you might want to do is go in and take a serious look at what features they have within that software. Because from what I found out, they're pretty darn similar.
so you're saying that we're duplicating, we're doing the same thing we did
We've
with
got
healthcare
multiple
insurance.
software that will do the same things.
Well, and I
Duplicating things.
I can see where there's some overlap on a lot of it, but
Mhm.
there isn't on everything. So I don't believe that the Text My Gov is gonna be overlapped by anything else. Text My Gov does tie into iWork to some extent, but not, it's not, iWorks does not have the capability that Text My Gov does. Like, they don't offer a text service.
They don't allow you to send text out.
Right,
But does
This company does.
yeah, but then you run into the problem of, here we're putting all of this work into iWorks, and now we're gonna tell them, hey, thanks, but no thanks. Piss off, and now we're going with Granicus.
It's better for us. Sorry.
Granicus.
Well, I mean, for this, I think maybe there might be something to look at in the future there,
Yeah.
like
For sure.
maybe migrating something over at some point. And granted, this is my little pet project here, because short-term rentals was something that got me interested in wanting to run for council anyway. I think that for what they proposed as far as the quote, which was $4,760 for a year, and granted, there's a couple of things to consider, because I did share this also with Dave. There's obviously some pricing tier that this is based on, like per number of short-term rentals, and we're in the between 50 and 60 range of active short-term rentals right now, and as that number goes up, I'm sure the pricing will go up. And we don't really know what that is yet. And then there is going to be some time up front to coordinate and get information transferred, and I think you saw her response about they could take CSV files.
Yeah,
and
we can
whatnot.
generate a CSV file
Yeah.
out of just about anything.
I mean, she also did mention that we could have as many logins as we wanted for the town needed, so, if council wants to look, or, the billing clerk or me or whatever, that people can have access. It's not limited like some of the other services. I'd certainly be willing to help upfront with providing information and getting things set up and letter formats and templates and things, just so that that's not one more thing, you guys have to do on the administrative side. But I think it would be great, but obviously it's for the council to kind of throw
So
around.
can I ask? a
Answer-
question? Whoops. Go
answer
ahead.
the
and I'll
question.
ask.
You just said, what do we do with the stuff we got in iWorks queue? iWorks queue is running on MySQL. That allows you to output in the CSV file. Emeritus reads the CSV
Sure.
file.
I mean, I'm
So,
not
I
saying
mean-
that we can't migrate
Yeah,
everything that we've
Just
done
not-
over, it's just,
we're starting a whole bunch of different things. We need to get our feet on the ground and then
right, and I
figure
think
out
that we're
which way to
talking
go.
about two different things, because, like I said. SCADA, I don't think we need to be rolling into anything else, because SCADA needs to be its own standalone system. Whatever it is that texts them is not SCADA, that's just a program that's on the SCADA computer.
Oh, I understand that, but the point I'm trying to make here is. What's the name?
Granicus.
Granicus has got a operating system within it that helps you monitor and work with water. So if you pull data from SCADA, which is MySQL, it can be put into Granicus. And then that may help work with the questions on what's the water doing, what the pumps are. That's because, as you gave me, we're collecting all that data. We have the ability to collect that data, but we're not doing it,
We are collecting that data,
not on an hourly basis.
we are collecting on an hourly basis, it's collecting every 5 seconds,
Okay, but
and it records every 5 seconds.
yeah, but you want a
if you could pull a report and you want it on an hourly basis, that's just a matter of setting up the
Okay.
report to pull it on an
And
hourly
then that
basis.
report would then go into a different program.
Sure,
So
but
it's-
the other question is what purpose is that gonna serve for Gina and Jamie to be able to see what the pumps are doing?
Not for them, but it's gonna keep your water crew and your water board quiet.
Look at it go.
Well, we can give them that information without it being part of my work.
So I think.
But I
that-
don't, you know, I understand what Taylor's meant,
Yeah,
what he's trying to say, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We can combine.
I do have one question. So if a resident calls in or texts into this company. And it's actually an emergency, will they direct to 911 or?
I would think so,
Okay,
yeah,
I
just,
just
I mean,
was
I don't know
wondering
details
if
like
that-
that, but I
okay.
would think so.
That would probably be the only thing that,
Yeah.
like liability.
I think that if,
but-
when we set it up, if we would tell them that like, hey, in these situations, you need to tell them they talk to sheriff's department or.
Right.
In these situations, it's this, yeah, I think it would be that.
So, my question is gonna be, does any of the registration fee that we charge? Is this gonna cover a lot of this? Cause I know it'll take, Jamie's not doing all this. now,
Right.
if they- if
Yeah,
they
So
take
that
it.
was a little discussion Dave and I had too, so,
Okay.
and I forget the figures off the top of my head, so the quote for the first year is 4760.
Okay,
By my scanning, and actually I think during the demo, Granicus came up with 54, 55 properties that are operating, and I had looked at that as well.
yeah,
We have like 70 or 80 on our list, but I think some are not active, and you know, that was just in total over the past couple of years. I went through the permit renewal file and new applications that we've had this year, and we only had 27, so that's only half. And unless more have come in since then, so basically half are operating and they haven't paid, and if you did the
Uh-huh.
math, $125 times 25. Somebody do that math.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting
gonna-
there. If they had all renewed, it would more than cover this. First
okay,
quote.
so that was my
Yes.
question, because my second question is, do we need to increase that fee?
Yeah, well, and that was part of the demo as well. The representative from Granicus pointed out that on average, most towns charge 2 to 3 times the average night's rental as a permit fee. And she showed us our average rental was $300 a night or somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay.
So,
And I was also just a
Not
side
too far off.
noting that I think it would be more than covered if we increase. And then on a side note,
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the new property or the properties up for sale like off Zillow and stuff. And I would say all of them that I read were saying, oh, can be used
this is a short-term rental, I know, that's like.
So,
Don't tell me that my next door neighbor's house.
So I think bottom line is yes, if we stay around that 50 number and those people all renew or we have new ones. Based on originally during the demo, she came in around 8,000, but then after they went back and looked at. Average numbers of rentals in our market or something like that, and then she came back with this second quote of just under 5,000, so.
And David brought up another good point on that too, is like, this is our introductory,
Mhm.
get our foot in the door
Yeah.
price, what's it gonna
Be
be next
after that,
year?
yeah.
Right,
Year
yeah.
after that.
And we'll review those fees. They're due January 1st, I think, first part of January, so we'll do those in the fall. I'm looking at Kristen because she has to remind me there. So we're gonna redo that in the fall.
the cost
Yeah,
that,
so-
like you had, or maybe Jamie, when she was in talking to a town council meeting last week, or last year, excuse me. She was spending a ton of time on this stuff, so I can only imagine just freeing up an employee's time is gonna save us.
I was gonna say, I would like to think that once it's all set up, it'd be a lot easier as far as the renewal process and adding new ones and, you know, obviously it'll be a little time up front, but hopefully it would save man hours.
Yeah, I hope so too, because it is, I think, and it is very time consuming. And probably more last year because it was the first year we've done it, but
Yeah, and I think,
still.
I mean, just from the residents, and I know we haven't heard, at least I haven't, as many complaints as we were hearing like during campaign season, but to give residents another alternative to deal with a problem they're having with a short-term rental house, I think would be really good thing.
And I think us being able to track it too,
And
because
yes,
if they're just contacting straight to the local representative,
How do
we
we
never
know?
know about it.
Right.
No, we
So-
don't, we know.
Whereas they would be going through this and it would keep track of it.
Exactly.
That's good.
Well, I think it's important that if we use this program, that it be able to communicate with iWorks, or at least Jamie, which, does she do the renewals?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Has she turned any down this year because of problem complaints, or do you know if she used that, if you use the data to do that, or?
We just don't have any data is the
Yeah.
problem.
Okay, anyway, let's make sure that whatever we use, that she has instant capability to review
Mhm.
the performance of those short-term rentals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that would give her the.
Yes, and
availability.
I mean, about the only
Okay.
thing she has right now is when we updated the ordinance last time, one of the changes was they had to have a local contact within.
Right.
Star Valley, I think it is, and I talked to her about that, and most of the applications, the new ones or the renewals did do that. A couple of them sort of gamed it where. The owner who lives in Virginia put their address here as their local contact information, and she asked them about it point blank, and they're like, well, that's my house where I live. I mean, what is she supposed to do to push back on that? It's a good point. So, anyway,
Or the people
But
who
yeah.
put the cleaners as their.
or they'll put the cleaners down.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
so,
can we add it to the budget, please?
can we?
What's it worth to you?
What's your favorite scotch? No, just kidding.
Yeah, there you go.
So
To me,
are we gonna, I guess, make the decision between now and the next meeting is whether we go with this or not? We can't do it now because it's all set, but let's,
yeah,
Yeah,
I would prefer to
fine.
do it on third reading, although I hate making changes on third reading, but we have to, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I think Kristen and I got it to include as the candidate list for V3, so you should expect to see it in V3 for you guys to.
Okay.
forward through.
There you go.
Does that system notify owners if there's texts or complaints or something that comes?
Yes.
That's good. I think that was one of the feedback points from the short-term rental meeting.
And the nice
Owners
thing
didn't
about
know if
this,
someone was-
the nice thing about this too is where we're saying that she can just push a button and generate a letter. Not only will it send a letter, but it'll also send evidence. It'll say, like, if the initial letter is, hey, we've just found out you're listing this as a short-term rental and you're not registered with us, it'll show that, like, it'll send them a printing of a screenshot of, we found this on this website, so we definitely know you're doing it, but this is also included in that, saying, hey, this person is complaining about your renters throwing wild parties and you're not responsive, and it'll show evidence. It'll give them evidence, so
That's great.
it'll be a lot better than kind of what we're having.
Tracking.
going on, so.
Yeah.
Communication.
And it'll be tied to the property, and the nice thing is, and I did ask her about that of between iWork and if they were partnered anyway, and she said. Where they can generate a CVS or CSV file, then it's really easy to pull it out of iWorks and put it into there, or pull it out of there and put it into.
So we
iWorks,
could utilize that, yeah,
Yeah.
part of it. Okay, all right. Done. Should we move on to number 6? Is a master plan update? Councilman Ellis, do you have anything for us?
No,
That is perfect. All right, next thing is
this item,
safety day planning, number 7. So we have safety day coming up in July. And we need someone who wants to take charge of kind of organizing it. I would be glad to let someone take charge, and I will give you all of my notes and all of my support. But it's just a matter of contacting all of the different outlets, EMS, fire, the hospital, and I can give you a long list of people that have come in the past. Figuring out what kind of food you want to do. If you want to serve food, if you want to do it in the morning, you can do breakfast stuff in the afternoon, hot dogs. So Councilman Denny did it last year. Jim, who's supposed to be on medical, so right now it's sitting in the audience. He has helped several years, but since he's kind of out, it would be nice to have a councilman who wants to step up and organize it. And I think this year it's really important to have all the councilmen involved, because that hasn't always been the case, but I think this group will be involved, so.
Is that July 8th? Is that the date we?
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Okay.
So Ron, if you want to take it again, or Kirsten wants to
Yeah,
take it,
I'm happy to. I was gonna just mention
okay,
that, I was kind of talking to the HOA about the event that we were planning on putting on and such, that I volunteered.
that's right. Did volunteer for that.
So I could make it into one full weekend too.
So it's July 8th.
I'm assuming that's a Saturday, right?
That is a
Yeah.
Saturday.
And so, Yeah, so and when I talked to HOA, it was more to use some of their facilities, like possibly the airstrip and such.
Mm.
If we did something where we needed parking and had like a amphitheater type of thing.
Okay,
So I don't know if the council has any opinion on that, because I was wondering if it would be best to do it during that safety day planning, so then it's like a lump thing, or if it's better to do it separate. I feel like after talking or just emailing with
Mhm.
Toby that we could make the safety day pretty big.
yeah, the first year we did it, it was
I thought it
really
was,
big.
yeah.
And then that's been several years ago, but that was the one year that I had everyone on the town council was involved and they had a booth and. I mean, there was a lot of involvement. Last year, I think was kind of small. I think the year before, Councilman Denny, I think we canceled it because of COVID. And so
No, we've had it the last 2 years. We
Yeah, we
cooked
have.
hot dogs last 2 years.
yeah, so anyway, but it was a much bigger event. It
Yeah.
has been, so.
And I think with Mid Valley last year, I think that was kind of all in limbo, so that might have kind of caused us to be a little slow,
Yeah.
but it could be. Especially if they get their.
Well, they, Mid Valley came last year. The fire department
Yeah, they
showed
were
up
here.
and so did
they did,
the emergency services.
I think the challenge is getting way ahead of it. That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about it today. Because these guys are booked up, the hospital will book up, and we've done, normally we'll have all the county, like county health. Firewise, the sheriff's department, dispatch, and there's quite a few people just in the county went by. The hospital, and I can send you a list of who we had in the past.
I got my email list of who did last year.
Yours, and then we would have several, one of the first year we did it, we actually had a passport for the kids. And if they went to each booth, then they got it stamped and then we gave them prizes at the end. And that one was great because the
That's
kids
great.
would do it. So that was kind of fun. We had games, we've got a bounce house. So we've done a bunch of different things to try to get people more involved. So
And every time I've ever been to it, it's been over here, so is that?
it's
kind of-
always been over there.
Is that what we were thinking too?
Yeah, I think so. It's one of the big reasons is because it's so visible, because people are coming up and down these two roads. And so we tend to get a lot of people off the road.
Mhm.
So, yeah, sorry, I have a volunteer looking at you too.
I don't mind actually, because I like this sort of stuff, so yeah.
I will help you all I can.
Thank you, yeah, I'll definitely take any emails and stuff like that,
Okay,
so yeah.
Councilman
We've already
Dickey,
got-
you will be here to help in person, right?
Yes, yeah.
You'll be here by
So-
July.
The forestry department is already coming. Barry Ty or Nathan will be there,
Okay,
kind of help with the firewise people.
so I would assign Councilman Denny to contact some of these people because he
Yeah,
knows all most
You
of them.
already talked to him, yeah, for sure.
All right, so it is on, what did I just tell you? It was on July.
July 8th.
July 8th. All right.
And then, did anybody have an opinion about making it like,
A great big event.
I know,
I don't know that I've ever thought about it.
Well-
We kind of focus on public safety. that
Yeah, I
Monday,
think so, so maybe it should just be that and then I'll do it.
Yeah, separate
Okay,
thing.
Okay,
And maybe focus, maybe push your other thing to the fall. a
so
little
that's
bit.
what I was kind of thinking, I mean, I know some people leave town, but I was thinking it's gonna be too hot to
Yeah.
like have anything.
So
much.
Rue, I think NRB will do War on Weeds mid-June, right?
Yes, we will.
Is there a date,
What's that?
the date for that?
I have to go.
Okay, that's all right. We need, actually, we'll get to that when we get to that. Yes, there will be one.
Okay,
oh, good, because that's a really important event.
And
So-
one other thing, since we're on events, I was also kind of wondering what like farmer's market might look like in our little community as well. And
So, it's interesting because we talked about that a lot and I mean, the area over there, we could use.
Yeah.
There, we don't have any DCC in our restrictions or any of that crazy
Yeah.
stuff, so
I
I think it was a great idea.
Yeah.
So
I think that would
I
be
know
awesome.
the only one I really am familiar with is the one in Alpine, but
Mhm.
it's on a Thursday night and I feel like they don't get many hits or vendors because of that.
Yeah, it could be.
So if we did something in the morning, it might.
Saturday morning, yeah.
Yeah, like a Saturday morning, and I'm sorry, what?
There's one in Jackson on Saturday
Oh,
morning.
I'm sure there.
So, yeah, I think it was.
so would that be the event? We committed to a community event in our objectives, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
And so we're thinking, would that be the farmer's market?
Well,
Yeah.
I think it
Might
um,
really grow in this.
I was thinking that would be
You're absolutely
secondary, but
right.
I think we could do both, honestly. I
Yeah.
think the event, like Rue was saying, doing it maybe later in the fall. But the farmer's market might be something, as I talked to some other vendors, we could do
More
like this
regularly.
summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there local farmers?
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Catterley's.
it
You
was-
could
I was
probably
gonna
get,
say it was-
Aurelia would come. with her
Yeah,
beef.
You might call it a local vendor show, but I'm not sure there's any farmers around here.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
like
It's a-
what
it's a
farmers
turn.
market, yeah.
It's a,
There you go, yeah. And even the lady down at Blue Ribbon, she might be interested in.
Like this one.
Yeah, this-
I love that idea. I think it's
That'd be
great.
good. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. And so, Councilman Denny, you said we had another objective, right, to do another activity?
No, in the objectives this year, we committed to have a community event.
So that would be Safety Day.
No, I thought that was separate from that. Okay, that's the event you're talking about?
I do remember it being
But-
said that it needed to be separate.
It needed to be separate, okay? So we need another one?
So, look at us go.
And I think the hint was maybe some kind of, like a little concert.
Yeah.
Or just have somebody come and do a music festival or something like that.
That was kind of the idea, and I did have the one in lady in Afton, Katie, that, or I'm sorry, she doesn't live in Afton, she was here, but, she, put one on in Afton last year. And so she had some information, so I was gonna connect with her and she's not doing
Yeah,
it
we
again.
just need
so-
to, yeah, oh, no, yeah, yeah, the only
Yes, and
thing.
fine.
She's in her-
Okay.
We just need to figure out our power situation over there,
Oh, really?
because we have electric,
Oh,
we have,
awesome.
and we have water, but
Is this over here?
yeah. It's just a matter of how we would, if someone needed power, where would we?
Yeah.
No, I hear you there. We might. See how we
I
could
don't think,
do-
I mean, it would be a lot easier there than trying to do it on the runway.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, that's.
because there's nothing over there,
Yeah.
so.
You know, Ken Shibel,
So I guess,
you need to contact them.
okay.
So Kristen or Mayor, do we
Yep.
have a budget for safety day?
It's
We
in the
should,
budget.
yeah, it's in there.
$200, $100, what is it?
Give me 30 seconds, I'll tell
Well,
you.
that's all right, we do have one, but will that cover portable toilets as well as hot dogs and
Yeah, I think, did we do that last year?
we did hot dogs, but I'm not sure we had a portable toilet.
Hot dogs. and
No, we
stuff,
did not. We
but-
don't usually, because we'll open up town hall so they can use town hall.
I
But,
was gonna say, I don't think we haven't watched.
Let's.
So keep that in mind, Kirsten, we do have a budget.
Okay.
it may not be
And
big
if-
enough,
and
but
if
we
you
do
don't-
have one.
but
I
that's-
see $200 in
And
there.
it's not very good.
It's only $400. So if we need to increase that,
Well,
oh my
I
gosh.
don't know. I had a few ideas to keep the cost down. But,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, let's not yet.
hey, give me a number for third reading then.
Okay.
Okay.
Because if you don't think that's enough.
Well.
How about 1,000?
yeah, that's-
I mean, if we don't use it, that's-
Yeah,
that's
that's a
cool.
good point. That's a good point.
Cause I
Yeah,
know
'cause this
that
is all-
what we ended up doing last year, cause it wasn't enough, is we hadn't spent the current year's budget for it, so we used that and then we split it into the next year's
Oh, yeah,
budget, so
that's
it's kind of got split out a little bit, but.
No, I feel like, especially when we do things like farmer's market where it's the vendors more than. all
Yeah.
that, it should keep us pretty minimal.
Yeah, you
And
would
the
probably,
fireworks.
have to rent a toilet, and those are like $125 or something.
Yeah,
It's not that much.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I feel like that's plenty for now.
maybe okay?
Yeah, I think so. I will work with that and try to.
Thank you so much for doing.
I'm
Sorry,
excited.
break
It'll
down
be
the
good.
clock.
No, it's all good. It'll be good for us. It's good.
So the next thing on the agenda is the tabletop drill. So we have an emergency plan. In our master plan that we're using today, we have to have an emergency plan. So we have one that was done in 2016. And we've done these tabletop drills periodically. And I haven't done one with this group, so we'll meet. We just need to figure out when we want to do it. So we'll do that, and that will not take that long, so get your calendars out. And part of going through that emergency plan is it desperately needs to be updated, and so as we're doing the tabletop drill, maybe we can figure that out. But then after we do that, the Public Works staff has asked to meet with the council. And so I think that we should be able to do that on the same time. frame.
Combine it, yeah,
I think, I mean, the emergency plan doesn't take that long.
that makes sense.
Because in the big scheme of things, the county Homeland Security kind of does everything. So we'll do stuff on the local level, which is communications. But,
And is that just, when it's a drill, it's saying, is it more like we're planning it,
it's more like, kind of, this is your responsibility. So it's a councilman, this is your job. This is
okay.
the mayor's job. This is this person's job. We'll kind of go through it like that,
Okay.
just so everybody knows in case.
Do a quick scenario like, there's a forest fire. Here's
Yeah.
what you do, here's
Yeah.
what you do. here's
Got
what you
it,
do.
okay.
And what we'll do prior is, because not everyone here has a copy. Is it on, it's online, right?
I don't think it is. It might be, I don't.
It is.
Is it on?
But if you want a hard copy, we can get your hard.
It's the plan,
in a
emergency
binder.
management plan.
Yeah.
And then the staffing, wanting to meet with us, is that regarding that, or is that?
No, it's regarding some of the things we've already talked about,
Okay.
road stuff,
Winter.
what they do. Yeah, they
Oh,
kind of
so
feel
that's
like
it.
the
Okay.
council really doesn't understand what they do, and I
Yeah.
think that makes sense, because
Yeah, for sure.
there's no way you can understand it unless you're in their shoes.
No.
No,
So
that'll be good. So should we do that sooner than later then?
I think we should get the.
Because that
accounts.
might help us with the budget stuff and with like a number. And this is gonna be separate than a workshop, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'll still have a quorum there, so we'll still need to be open to the public, but that we won't. Which is kind of our world when we have a quorum. So, Kristen, you like taking vacation?
I haven't, and how long?
I know.
She
She
likes
never
to
takes
take
time off. She has, I know, and I'm always like, you need to start taking time off, you're gonna
I,
lose it.
I'm gonna really, well, that's the other problem, but the bigger
Mhm.
problem is that I don't wanna get to the point where I start hating coming to work. Cause I really do like coming to work and I don't wanna get to that.
Yeah.
Like to-
So I've got the town calendar in front of me.
Oh.
You're thinking sometimes in June. I think it might be hard to get it in prior to the next work.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen
With
later this
everything
month,
going on.
because that council meeting is the 13th of June,
Yeah,
so that was really only leaves 1 week.
yeah. I think that we look in June to do
Immediately
it.
after the council meeting. I'm going
Yeah,
to-
I think we have to. You're gonna be gone, but you need to be here. So
You don't think we can make it happen this month? Cause it's only the night.
Yeah, we probably could, that's what I'm saying. is
Oh,
that-
you think
okay.
we can? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, this is kind of the point in time for those guys where they're not plowing, but they can't start work on roads, so this is a good time to get the little projects
Actually,
done
get them in.
and.
So you're
meetings.
out. What about the 30th? That's a Tuesday,
The day after
Memorial Day. Are you
I'm
have
good,
payroll?
yeah, whatever you guys, whatever's easiest for you.
Yeah.
Anybody have a problem with the 30th?
30th of June, sorry?
Yes, or 30th of May.
May.
30th of
May.
May.
May,
We want to get it done quickly, yeah,
when's Memorial Day?
The 29th.
it's the 29th.
And then we'll have another workshop in 2 weeks. That. I know we're putting that at the bottom, but I think that was part of my thing. I put more work. So I'm like. It seems like our workshops, the last couple have just been so jam packed, and then in between I have a billion
I
questions.
think that's,
So
I have the 30th. Let's see. See, Kristen's out yeah, I have the 31st, I can do, there's nothing on the town's thing that day. The payroll
And checks.
and Sarah, or June 1st, that still puts us out. Thursday.
Wednesday would probably be better for me, but I don't know what everybody else is doing.
What would be?
Wednesday, because I have to go out of town.
And that,
Was it
that prior week, that
Mhm.
vacation is not set in stone, so if it's gonna
Well,
work better.
Oh,
just-
no, if you're on vacation.
I picked a week that there was zip going on, so.
So I'm gonna put something there.
Or is it possible to do it in 2 weeks, or is there stuff that we have to get together for this drill stuff before?
That, yes, me.
There is, oh, yes, okay, then that's.
Well, today's the 9th, so that week is the week that Kristen's gone.
The 22nd. Okay.
But like I said, that's not set in stone. I can move it.
So
No,
can
I'm
you do
fine
the
with the
22nd?
Yep.
Are you sure?
Come in on that Monday and
Okay.
then leave after. I don't mind
So
that.
we usually do that. Now, this is the second question for the council. Usually we'll do it either early in the morning, not like 6, but like 8 o'clock.
It's 1:06.
I know, I'm up at 6.
So the 22nd's out for me, so I got dentist appointment in town, so.
We can do it the next week if it's better. I feel bad if you're moving vacation too. So the following week's fine.
With the 20, talk about the 30th?
31st.
31st.
Okay, about the 31st or the week before. What's next? Let's see.
No, I'm fine.
I could do it. I could make it happen next week. I'm out Thursday, Friday next week. Okay, just.
I think you're out Monday, Tuesday.
And I'm out Monday, Tuesday. My twins will
So
be
it's-
1.
Okay.
I have to go see them.
It's been a year.
Yeah.
I'm out Wednesday afternoon.
I was gonna say when.
Yeah, Wednesday afternoon's not good for me.
Next
week's really not
in the
good.
morning. Okay.
So next week's not good. And the week after. I'm fine all week, the week after.
Which week is that?
The week of the 21st, 22nd. I mean,
What about Tuesday, the 23rd?
That's fine.
Like I said, I don't mind coming in for a couple of
For a
hours.
couple
if I
hours,
need
okay.
to,
all right,
Jumping out, so
thank you.
I'm just this.
So the 23rd, that's a Tuesday. And that's kind of consistent with what we've been doing.
At 8 AM.
8 AM, can you guys do, can the
Yeah,
work-
fine.
work include 8 AM?
So 8 AM on the 23rd.
So
Yeah.
will this involve the county support?
No. It's just the town.
So we're not gonna get experience with interfacing with them?
No, not for this. This is just for our plan.
And then any idea how long this might take? Not,
I
mean,
would say
5 hours or?
No.
Okay.
Maybe a couple hours.
maybe 2,
Okay.
we'll say 2.
2 hours.
At the max.
Even with the staff meeting and stuff?
Yeah,
Makes sense? Okay.
I think.
I mean, as long as it's not more than like 4 or 5, I'm usually good. I just. I'm trying to gauge.
We would have a riot on our hands if we had them sit in
Well,
this office for 5 hours.
And besides that, they have a ton to do, so
Yeah.
I try to keep them minimal time.
Yeah.
When I pull them together.
So I'm gonna save 8 to 10. I'm gonna make sure that it is on Willie's calendar and the. Why did that make it a Zoom meeting? I don't want it to be a Zoom meeting.
Water department.
Water department.
So that's everybody. We'll probably lose Jamie occasionally during that because she'll answer the phones, but I mean, the phones can go to voicemails. If people come in. Okay. But we can make it, we have to make it work.
We meet here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
be
have to do it in there
Next-
upstairs. We'll have to do
upstairs. Yeah, we'll need space.
Okay.
So
that-
is upstairs the actual emergency response center for us?
That would be the only place we have that's big enough, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, everything's all set up with communications and
No,
Come on, Ron, what do you think we are?
a
Yeah.
town responsible for emergency response?
we're not.
We're not Phoenix.
So,
You have
yeah.
a cell phone, don't you?
I'm just making sure we are
have a phone and
set up to actually run one, so.
Right?
Well, we would not run one. Either the county, the state, or the feds would run it.
But would they, I'm
That's
just curious, would they send a sheriff or in here to be the emergency response director or what?
Bring in everything. Including the communications. So the only thing that we're really responsible for is trying to get people out of town, traffic, most of it's communications.
Right,
So, yeah.
Transportation.
Transportation is another part of it that the town is responsible. To a point. Okay, so we're good. We got that set up. Financials, Kristen sent those out. Didn't hear from anyone. She assumed they're fine.
Yeah, I didn't hear a peep.
I just noticed like our revenues seem to be ahead of the budget, if I'm reading the report right.
Yeah, so that line that says, the additional funds required, which is misleading, but if you look in that year-to-date actual, that 548 is actually surplus.
That's what I thought. Okay, that's.
I did notice that the expenses for roads. I mean, a couple months ago, we had expenses way above our budget. Now it's dropped down. So apparently you did some corrections to the report to get those errors fixed.
That was
Nope,
just
that's just
how
kind of
it goes, right?
Yeah.
Seasonal expenses.
seasonal, yeah.
Okay.
And then this is probably a dumb question on the capital water budget. Is it just that the 2022 water project hasn't started yet?
Right, we budgeted for that project to begin last summer and it obviously didn't get funded, so. It was in the budget, but nothing ever happened of it, so that's why.
Just remember that 22 is 23.
Well, on our
Or
official
maybe
paperwork,
24.
It's called 22.
on official paperwork, it's called 22, but it's actually probably.
Yeah, what we should do is just.
Yes, what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Remember 24 is 22.
Two is, yeah. I know, yeah, I didn't have any comments, so we should just use our, what is it, our application number, is that what they really refer to?
The loan number, yeah, the grant number.
The grant number, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just a notation. So yeah, I didn't have any questions.
And Dave hasn't had a chance to study that back page yet to improve the listing of the reserves and stuff.
Yeah, so the entire package is gonna get a redo for July reporting. I'm not gonna get it to it until after we get the budget done. So not only the back page, but all the others will be, so you have to live with these for what, 2 more May and June reporting, and then you'll kiss them goodbye.
Okay, thank you, that would be good. Goodbye. All right, okay, just moving right along. So just a quick go through of the meeting tonight, so we're all on the same page. These pages. Let's see, we don't really have any, we don't have that much business, honestly, and there was. I did have a question for Kristen. On the sheriff's office report, should we rename that? And the reason I ask is because it's the 911 dispatch is the report, it's not,
No, sheriff's report.
no, so included in that report is fire calls and.
Sure.
And
Rename
ambulance
it to
calls.
the dispatch report.
Yeah, to what it really is, so it's confusing, I think people see that and they're like, well. You know, why is the fire report empty?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I did notice they had some things on here that I was. Concerned about in our little town. And one of them was elderly abuse.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, isn't Shane supposed to attend a quarterly meeting?
All we gotta do is invite him.
Okay.
We haven't invited, but we probably should. And the same with the chief.
So I'm sorry, I was trying to bring that up because I did notice, like, it seemed high. Some of the, I think it was like a 35
There were 35 incidents.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, when they send that over to me, they don't send any detail on it, so it's just what you see is what they send me, so.
Yeah.
And it comes straight from Lee at the dispatch.
Yeah, it
office.
comes right from dispatch, so that's why I said it's the calls
Yeah,
that come in.
and I don't know, obviously, there's probably some privacy stuff too, but I don't know how much of that we should also be aware of as a town, just because. For safety and stuff.
There is 100% privacy, they won't.
Okay.
Yeah, they won't tell you, they won't even tell you the neighborhood.
We have asked before, unless there's a situation like what happened on my road last summer and they won't.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I
If
just
it-
thought
if
that it
it's-
was interesting this time when I read it.
If it's
so
necessary, they will call Jim.
They
But-
will at least
They do.
communicate with somebody.
Okay. Yeah, and if it's a fire, then they call our water department also knows, because they
Yeah.
need to be involved in
Oh,
that, so, but we had 6 medical calls last one. That was good. It was interesting, yeah, I thought that
You
was.
say 6 last night?
Last month. The April report.
Last month, and they actually wrote 3 citations, I was very proud of them.
We haven't seen them, so I don't know who they were, Jim.
They
They must have sent them to us.
still have to
You
send
do?
them here.
Was it you, Jim?
No, man. I'm a good boy.
Okay, moving on. Shoot, so it's one of those kind of meetings. So we've got, I think that's the 3rd reading of the land usage months. And that was gonna be, Councilman Ellis, you're gonna do that one. And then the appropriations ordinance, and Kristen will read it, but she can't do a motion, so we'll just have to have somebody do the motion on that. And then new business, we got nothing. I've got the mayor's update. I'm gonna talk about the flags out in front, so I don't know what we're gonna do. On that, and then I just have a couple of other things that we have, we already talked about here.
So I was gonna ask on that email, did they supply the flags?
No, we own the flags.
So we just need somebody to put them up, is that?
There's about 50 of them. isn't there? And
So
they're
how
not-
much, how much labor is involved? Like 4 guys, 2 hours? How much work is involved each time?
I have no idea. The scouts do it and they usually come up like 6 in the morning and put them up.
They're not gonna do it this year. is
They're not gonna do it
why
anymore.
We're talking about it, is we're gonna need volunteers.
So we're gonna have to figure out a volunteer group to do it, or I don't know. I mean,
Are those the ones in the road?
Yeah, just the ones
Is
that they put up for the.
Difficult to do?
No.
No, there's,
They have poles and stuff.
yeah, there's holes all along. You just have to put them in the hole. This time of year probably to clean that over. Yeah.
Uh-oh, you got a volunteer. Uh-oh.
Are you thinking? Yeah. So,
I'll volunteer.
yeah.
See that?
You have the pickup truck,
You know, it's just a great.
Yeah. I can-
because they take it off in the shed, put it in the back of the pickup truck. They got scouts walk up down both sides of the road, right back.
Well, I'm not a scout, but I look.
Well, that's what they were doing,
Yeah.
because I ran into them last.
And I think they don't, I mean, I don't know how many kids they usually have help, but evidently they have no kids to do it anymore.
year.
No scout.
They had some, there were 3.
There was 4 last year.
Yeah, it's pretty
Before?
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put them up, yeah, they put them up early in the morning and then they take them down in the evening.
Absolutely.
And so I think there's 6 holidays that we have, that we've been doing.
And I can get the list of,
Oh,
because we
get
have
the
a,
list to
we
you.
have an agreement basically that we had signed every year with them.
So we would donate money to the scouts every year and they would do the flags for us.
Were you donating money to the volunteers?
Only if they're a nonprofit. So if you'd like to form. We would probably do that. I mean, it's a really big deal for our community.
I mean, every time that it's,
It's
I
slow.
think they had a
So
couple of
pretty.
times last year where they were a little bit behind on getting them out and.
Yeah.
Definitely comment.
Yeah, they didn't get Veterans Day, but I think, and we may want to rethink Veterans Day, because usually they have to dig the snow away in order to put them in. So that one's a tough one because it's in November.
Yeah.
But
So the camera cuts off the volunteer about the head. Who volunteered?
Nikki Wilmore,
Nikki volunteered.
Okay,
and I can commit for the summer term, and
Okay.
then I'm going to have to see if I have enough resources that will.
Okay,
figure out.
okay. Yeah, and we only do
By
it really.
resources, do you need children?
People.
Yeah, and we usually do
Yes,
it, it's mostly in the summer. Veterans Day is the only weird one that's in the fall.
Yes.
And then nothing in the winter.
How many holidays are we talking?
6, I think there's 6.
Let me see if I can find the.
It's
contract.
flag, I think it's Flag Day, 4th of July,
Need like a flag.
Memorial Day, Labor Day. That'd be cool.
They should have
Maybe it's only 5.
more
Veterans Day.
Carry on, I'll find it.
Okay,
I will interject
You
when
can do it
I.
on Veterans
Okay.
Day, man.
I'll volunteer as well.
Is Veterans Day one of them?
yeah, we usually do, yeah,
Oh,
we do Veterans Day. How about
That's
that?
for the money.
Yeah, we now have 2.
Good going.
We make sure this is minutes that we
At
have
6 AM, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, I know that they're up. On the 4th of July, when they do the flag raising ceremony, these are already up, and so I'm assuming they do them before 7 sometimes, so.
Where would you like me to add that, Mayor?
Just wherever you have the notes for what I was just, where was I talking about?
Under the
Oh, in the mayor update,
On the regular town council agenda items, you just want me to add that
would you do that? Yeah,
was discussed, okay.
we'll put that in the meetings for tonight, because I'm gonna talk about it tonight. Is that what you're thinking? Kristen?
Well, you wanted me to add it to the minutes,
Yeah, yeah, I just want it in there somewhere so we all remember, especially me.
just where you wanted me to.
You said there was 50 flags?
I can't remember. Because we have a lot, we've replaced
Yeah.
some and so, but they're in the shed, the trail shed, over by the,
okay.
over by the shop.
I know that we just replaced a bunch of them.
And I think I might have an extra key for that shed, otherwise we'll have to get a key.
I have 8.
Yeah, we've got. Okay, right to- All right. So that was the only things I think on the agenda. Pretty quick, pretty easy, depending on how much time we spend on appropriations. Okay, next item,
I did find it, sorry,
you did find it?
yes, it's loading right now.
Okay. All right, we'll keep going.
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days.
7.
Memorial Day, Armed Forces
Oh.
Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Patriot Day, and Veterans Day.
I like that.
Okay, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Emailing them.
One cup.
Hopefully gives the dates.
It does.
Okay. I'm like.
That's.
Yeah.
Were you ever in the?
The last time that we had to update this, I had to actually Google what day some of these fell on, because I was like, because the Memorial, like Flag Day,
We got maybe that, sure, maybe just.
I learned it.
Put everybody on.
Yeah, that's, I don't need it. Have it already. Whatever you want to do. Okay, so the next thing I have is the board discussions. So first of all, I just wanted to note that before we go into the individual boards, because we're going to talk about joint meetings and a couple of other things. Okay. We're having a real problem getting information from the boards, not P and Z, because their scheduled meetings never change. Except when they decide to cancel them and they don't give us enough notice to notice the public. So if you guys can work with your boards and make sure that number one, we know when the meetings are, they're public meetings, they need to be on the town calendar. And number two, if they need Zoom, they need to give us more than a 10-minute notice. So, and it would really be helpful.
it would be nice
It's
to know
a
that
Real frustration in this office.
if they have a meeting today and they know today that they're gonna have a meeting in a month, then we know that same day.
Mhm.
Because it's hard to get things scheduled, hard to know for sure that we're gonna have the room available, that we're not gonna be double scheduled, things like that, so.
Plus you're putting it out there to the public.
Yeah, so we
It's hard
want to let
zero
the public
notice.
know, and I looked at the town calendar for June to try to figure out when the boards were meeting, so I could kind of say, okay, I suggest these dates for joint meetings. And all I could find was P and T, so that would be really helpful. And I know that the finance board only meets quarterly, so that one's a little different, but
And the joint meetings, we all attend those ones. Okay, is that just once a year that we do that, or?
yeah, normally unless they wanted,
Do
unless
they all on
Unless there's
there?
a big project, and really, since P and Z writes ordinances, we might go meet with them more.
Okay.
But,
And then are these on the same month that they do the joint
well,
ones?
it's up to you
Or is
guys.
that, okay,
It's kind of up to what we decide to do.
okay.
So we can look at that right now. We can talk a little bit about the water board. The only thing on the joint meeting with them is I don't know when their next meeting is. So I can't really say,
It's the first Monday in June.
it's not on the calendar.
Yeah, they didn't let anybody know.
They don't let anybody know.
Okay, I thought Jamie's at the meeting.
She was.
But Jamie's not the chairman, so it would be really good if the chairman would let the town know. Ask them to put it on the calendar.
NRV is May 16th.
Oh my God, don't start throwing dates. I didn't know that.
This makes, that one may not work.
They're not all at the same
Yeah.
time. They're
It's like we can spread it a little. We have a lot going on.
I can't get into the
The
calendar
calendar
right
right
now,
now.
so.
I have a
I'll
calendar.
email that to you.
Yeah, if you could send me a list, if you have a list, that would be fantastic, because.
No, sure, put them all on at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I don't have anything on the town calendar for NRV or water.
And then,
I thought they came in. Cause after every of our meetings, we decide when the next, and I usually come on over, or the day, next day. That's when I came over, anyway,
Would you send it, just send an email, it'd
Yeah.
be easier.
okay,
If you send it to Kristen and I will,
I
I also make sure it's on the calendar.
have the attention span of a gnat, so you might have told me, but that doesn't mean I'm
True.
gonna remember. If it's in writing, I'll absolutely.
okay.
Okay, then she'll just do it right there. So what about in June? Okay, I'm bouncing all around. So let's talk about the water board first. Okay, when is the next water board meeting?
It's the first Monday in June.
At 1 o'clock?
Yeah,
That one probably we need a joint meeting with them, I think, sooner than later, is my opinion.
first Monday in June.
So that's the 5th, and they meet at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I'm probably gonna be out of town that day. But if we, but is it possible to get together with them before that? If not, I will rearrange them.
Well,
To get here for it. Or
I
can
don't know when
Zoom?
they meet. I mean, we're,
Oh, maybe I'll zoom then. I mean, I'm traveling.
oh, that's
that
right.
day.
We do Zoom.
Okay.
Because they're not here.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I mean, I'd rather be here in person. If you guys think we should do sooner, make that adjustment too. But what do you guys? Why were we thinking sooner, just because of all the stuff going on?
Yeah, because of all the stuff that's going on, but I know their next scheduled meeting is the 5th, and they usually are pretty consistent the first Monday of the month at 1 o'clock.
And they're all gone, they won't, none of them will be here.
I don't know, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. This time of year, I would think they're like that.
The only problem is if we do something sooner and they can't make it. since they're
Yeah.
Not all here, I guess we could give them a
I
date
see
to
how the
see,
June
if not, then we can. Just
Or we
stick with
just,
June.
I mean, otherwise we have to schedule it for July.
No, I think that's.
Or you can try to Zoom. Or we
Yeah,
just do it.
on June 5th.
Okay, so let's just plan on that. Councilman Denny, will you let the water board know? That the town council will be, there, that we're gonna do a joint meeting, we'll send them an email too. We'll
What
have a
day?
joint meeting with them on the 5th,
Is that the first Monday?
yeah, of June. At
Okay.
1
And then generally, what is the purpose? to
No,
do-
wait a minute, it's a 3 P.M.
Oh, that's. much better.
It's
Okay.
at 3 p.m. now.
Yeah, you're causing me.
Yeah,
Yeah, now it's late. Okay,
it's on my calendar, see, 3 P.M.
you're killing me. Okay. June 5th.
And the purpose of the joint meeting is to,
Well, for this one, it's probably to work through our, I don't know if we have any differences or what the problem is, but I think it's to work together so they can go forward. Does that
Right.
make sense?
yeah, they
They
definitely have some
forward.
issues with communications and cooperation with the staff, so.
Yeah, I heard that, but I was at some of those meetings, so. And so was Kristen and so was Taylor. So we can discuss that in a second, but let's get this done. So we're talking June 5th at 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
You're killing me.
Can I let you know,
Yeah.
that weekend if I have to Zoom? People Zoom it anyway.
Yeah,
I'll show the simple.
yeah, there's
Oh,
some,
okay. I'd much rather be here in person, I might be able to.
there's at least one that's definitely Zoom. Well, that was a meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So before we go away from, water, or do you want to just finish trying to pull together some times and dates here and go back to water? What do you want to do? I don't really care.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do that since everybody's.
Let's finish the dates. Okay. So planning and zoning, I mean, we know their meetings are every other week.
Unfortunately, at 5 p.m.
Yeah, they're at 5 p.m. So I'm hoping I can get them to come in. Do you think they'd come in at 3 to do a meeting with the council first before their regular meeting?
Yeah, I think that's possible. Trying to remember,
I'm trying to think of. how-
everybody that's still active is all retired, so yeah.
Okay, all right, and I don't know if they've got, I mean, if they've got a ton of building permits. Then we need to kind of weigh that one,
There
as to
aren't
what they're gonna
tomorrow.
do. I know there's not, that's why, so. So their next meeting that would make sense is May 24th. At 5. Is their meeting.
So I think I'm gonna have to quit my day job.
You want more meetings?
I do, but I thought. I didn't realize what I was
Yeah.
asking for. No, it's a good point. I did ask for that.
Oh, I'm looking at June, or we're into June. So,
Is it important to do them sooner than later? I know on the water, I agreed on that one, but the other.
I don't know when that ordinance is gonna be ready, but it's important that we're involved in that conversation.
Okay,
Because there's some things. that
I mean,
that-
why don't we do
we
the
need to talk about.
24th? Hold on though. And you guys are thinking 3?
I'm thinking 3.
This will take about 2 hours on that, you think? Or come through?
I'm looking at Chris, I know, I don't know,
It's hard to predict.
it's really hard. These are pretty big ordinances that we're working on.
No, 3's fine. We'll make it.
Oh,
work.
revision.
What do you, I know, it's a whole revision. Taylor, what do you think? How much time do you think?
Since they're looking at updating the IRB to
Yeah,
the 2021 or 2023,
yeah,
it's gonna be pretty extensive.
Let's do 3. I can go as late as you guys.
If I remember right from Marty Oki.
Yeah,
They said there wasn't a whole lot of changes. if I
Yeah,
Remember.
I
correctly.
sent that to you guys, yeah. I had them already look at it.
So May 24th at 3?
It sounds like it. Is it May? It is May. Is it May 20? Yeah, it is. May 24th at 3 is kind of tentative because we need to obviously
Make sure they can.
partner with P and Z. Okay.
Which Taylor can ask them that tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, tomorrow they have a meeting, right?
Me to remember that.
Right. That's how I say it all the time. I'm like walking her office. Can you remind me of that?
Right
Um,
now, that's what I have to do.
All right, so we got that one, and that one's tentative. Natural Resource Board.
You know what? On the May newsletter, we're on there for May. It says NRV 16th March, MAR
Oops.
at 2 P.M.
That's a good one. Typo.
So that's probably why we're not on there.
But it is the 16th of
Yeah,
May, right?
it's the 16th of May at 2 P.M.
Can we push yours back up so we're not cramming everything? When is your June one?
Yeah, when's June?
We decide at the end of the meet our monthly meetings, we decide. I'll bring it up, we'll try to do like a 2-month look ahead.
Oh, that would be good. Okay, so a question mark for the Natural Resource Board. And then I wrote the Finance Board. Is Dave still? Chairman, I have the Finance Board down here. Would it make more sense for the council to sit down with the Finance Board when the audit is finished, but that's in the fall? Or what, or does it even make sense? You tell me, because you've never asked for one, so.
Yeah, we're pretty closely involved. The audit one, we have nothing to talk about. I mean, you guys can probably recall the amount of discussion around the audit last time. So if y'all want to meet with us from a procedure perspective once a year, it could be any time.
Okay,
In our opinion, and we're not hesitant about bringing any issues we see to you guys. So I feel like we're communicating well, but if you have a point of view, let me know.
okay, that works for me. All right, so let's go back to the Water Board. Catherine Rock brought up, we received a letter of, a resignation letter for one of the members of the board. And I was asked to add this to the agenda for a discussion item. And so do you want to lead that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I read the letter. I understand that Mr. Wilson has been on the water board for quite a long time and has a lot of corporate knowledge, and it was just, I don't know the particulars of the situation. But it was disheartening to see that it seemed like there were some communication issues that really should be looked at. Now, my take is that usually, perspective is from where you sit. So I'm sure they feel like they have communication issues with the council, the employees, I don't know, Public Works. And then I'm sure from the other point of view, there, as we've been talking about, like not knowing when meetings are scheduled and the information flow needs to be both ways. And so perhaps this joint meeting that we are going to try and do with them at their next meeting would help. I hated reading it and feeling like this person was just very upset, and
Yeah.
and
I appreciate that you stepped up because I'm kind of jaded. He's resigning there. And so I look at it, I'm just like, oh, yeah, which is bad on my part. I'm sorry to say, but I'm glad that you guys said, well, wait a minute, we need to really take this serious. And so, yeah, hopefully that'll work. I think that it's also helpful that Councilman Ellis had been attending the water meetings, and so didn't exactly agree with the letter, and same with Kristen, but we can certainly talk through that as well.
Let me,
But would you
let
like
me
to?
address this. for you.
Sure.
When I came on as town council, due to my background with computers and database, Boyd asked me to work with him on the SCADA stuff. And we dealt with SCADA and Jesse for a full 2 years trying to get Jesse to provide.
who is Jesse?
Jesse's the guy that runs SCADA and does the water stuff in town. Before we could even get anything up. And the arguments ran
Is that
for everything.
No.
No.
So
okay,
Jesse
sorry.
works with, his company is called Rogue Services. They were
So
formerly.
he doesn't
Wetco.
work for the town. He's
No,
not a town.
he's a
Okay.
contractor.
He's a contractor.
So the argument was always that we were going to update and give you a new computer and a new software program. So we kept getting shoved off, if you will. When that finally came, for whatever reason, Boyd stopped contacting me or asking me if I wanted to be in it, and somebody on the water board that was supposed to be looking at it. The hydrologist on the well, the data at one point showed we had a well that was only 100 feet deep. And that turned out to be a SCADA problem, if I remember right, wasn't it? Because the well's 300 and some odd feet deep, last time I looked at it.
Yeah, originally that situation arose because we were having issues of when the well would kick on, it would give a low level alarm. And so we weren't quite sure what was going on. We reached out to Ryan to see if he had any opinions on the matter. He has somebody that he works with who is a hydrologist and is a well expert who volunteered to come and look at things. But during the process of us providing him information before he even came out, it was determined that no, it's not a well problem, it's a SCADA problem, and then that was fine. That's where that ended.
Yeah.
But he was never going to charge us anything for coming out and looking at anything. He has come out and looked at our wells before. So it wasn't a situation where he was coming in blind. He's familiar with our system. But I think the water board's concern that we were going to throw money at it was not there. He wasn't gonna charge us.
That water board, at the last water board meeting, when I was there was questions as to how much the pumps were running and what the cost was and demand, the type. That's in SCADA. The data is there someplace.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what the water board is getting, but somewhere if I go back through my files, I've got a full list of what SCADA records. And like Kristen said, it's every 5 seconds. And it's there, and that's too much data to deal with. So I was requesting on the hour type data. And don't know whether it ever showed up or not.
But I think Terry has access to all of that. He has access to everything, right?
Yeah. We had
So we just
provided
haven't really
them,
gotten.
from the last that I knew of that SCADA situation is that
Right.
we had given the water board all of that information, given them like a giant data package and said, here's what Jesse has put together,
Yeah,
the report
we
that he
did.
had built for it, and give us some feedback. Do you want something different? Is this what you want? Do you want it to look different? Do you want it to come out different? And then it was radio silence. We never heard another word on it. So it was kind of like, and that's the other concern was that Jesse doesn't work for us. He works for us, but he's not a town employee.
Right.
So I can't make demands on his time that he dropped everything that he is doing when he's got other clients to demand something of him. And the deal is the only reason why we got a new computer is because the computer that we had was so outdated that the software wasn't supported anymore, the hardware wasn't supported anymore, and it needed to be updated. So we purchased a new computer, but all of the historical data was on the old computer. So Jesse had to find the time in his schedule to sit down and pull that data off. And that's what took so long, is waiting for him to be able to do that. But once we had that data and once we passed it on to the board, we never got any feedback.
Yeah, and he came to we had Jesse come to the meeting and he sat down with all the entire board and so he could listen to everything that they were concerned about. Gave him access to all the information was the last thing I heard, and I don't remember when Jesse was here.
It was a while
Last
ago.
summer, it was quite a while ago, yeah,
So I think that
yeah.
the concern is more. I'm sure the information, everything, but the communication from him was more the fact that there was issues. Both ways, it sounded like,
There was.
and so I think that's the bigger part of this.
Yeah,
Then
And I- yeah.
information passed and all that,
Yeah.
and a lot of that is a communication issue without knowing and
Yeah.
being there, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when you have a citizen and somebody who's volunteering, saying things like this, and some other things that we've read and heard as well, and personally seen. There is a concern within the staff and how we.
but the
communicate
staff
with
doesn't go to the
citizens too.
water board
Oh,
really.
sorry,
meetings.
the
Well, yeah,
administration.
Well, there's, in their ordinance right now, they have that, I think it's the Public Works Director, and there's a number of town staff that are automatically members of their board, now it doesn't say they must attend meetings, but I would think that they, if they were requested to, and I thought
And they.
a couple of meetings
they're
ago,
going there.
like,
Do you have that on? Because that's the
I'm
one we
gonna
just
look it
looked
up, 'cause I
at.
don't remember.
I thought there was some, maybe I'm getting confused with one of the other board ordinances, but anyway, the,
I don't remember that.
I guess. In Rue's brain, I feel like our boards, and I'm not familiar with all of them by any means, as
Yeah.
far as the people on them and other than reading the ordinances. Like, to me, the boards and the town ought to be working together on
Mhm.
things, because obviously the town doesn't have 50 employees, right?
Mhm.
That's why we have these boards with these volunteers, and so. If there's, something like this that comes up with the water board or any of the other boards where there's some communication issues or whatever, I don't know, I'd just like us to be able to try and.
I think the really tough
Work
work
through
with the water board is Kristen kept saying, and I don't know how many times she said it. Was you're getting a data point every 5 seconds, and they kept saying, well, we want everything for 2 years, and she's like, no, you don't understand.
We can't hold.
You did, it's just too much.
The very first thing that when I got trained as a water operator.
Yeah, so that was
system
frustrating for
was a
everybody.
Data crash system like that, but
Yeah, that's too
I
much.
think it's also the
Mhm.
suggestions of, and it was kind of, we talked about it too, Kristen, like this. Like, we're making a suggestion and we feel like boards aren't hearing us, and then the boards are making suggestions, and I don't think they're feeling like the town is listening to them. And really, that goes across the board too, with other suggestions that have been made, so it's like, I think that this is where. We need to maybe step up and figure out how to connect, not just with
Yeah.
our boards, but citizens too. So that this sort of thing, and I understand if, he's had a run-in before where he's felt his.
Not with the staff, but with the city council.
Well, and that's another issue too, where. we
Different
need
council.
to- Yeah, but that we also
Yeah,
need to hopefully be more available
Yeah,
to our boards and our
I
citizens.
think
if we
it
need
probably
to.
needs to go a little both ways too, that if we,
exactly.
if we do provide them information, then they're listening and.
Yeah,
I think that was sort of the frustration with previous staff, that they stopped attending meetings because it was like, I'm screaming into an empty room and nobody's hearing me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it does say that the following individuals are automatically appointed as advisory
Advisory members,
members.
I think there was something.
Town treasurer, I get included on here twice.
Yes.
Town
Yeah, you
treasurer, town administrator,
we
or
need to
town
fix
clerk,
that.
public works director, and the town's water engineer.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, and they have attended
Yeah.
when they've been asked to.
And the only reason I stopped attending is because I have a mountain of other things that I need to take care of, and that's why. We tried to send, our water clerk for sure, but a water operator would be great. But the public works director would be even better, and so,
The public works director and the town's water engineer are advisory members, non-voting.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
it's literally what I just said.
Well, I found it. I wanted to look it up.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, now wait.
So we're- okay,
before
go
you
ahead.
read that, let me go
Okay.
back. To the meeting on, let's see, it was Tuesday, water board meeting. Couple of things. That the town council needs to be aware of. During the water board meeting, it came up that, from one of the members. That there was a number of policies and procedures. That the water board thought they should be getting data and information on. And then there was others that they thought should be going to public use, such as water quality, et cetera, et cetera. I made the recommendation at that time that the water board put together some set of policies and or recommendations and give it to it. I just found out the town has some. So I've requested that the town give those to the water board, and then the water board can then turn around and clear things up on it somewhat.
That's good.
The other thing that ended up happening on Wednesday, I was notified that the National Rural Water Group is putting together a lawsuit against the Environmental Protection Agency. Turns out the Environmental Protection Agency looks like is going to be doing regulations to look at PFAS, PFAS.
What they call forever chemical.
Yes, forever chemical. Now, the problem with that is that the only place that tests water for PFAS is east of the Mississippi, and it costs you $60,000 per test. So the intent of the lawsuit is that it gets the EPA to require the producers of the PFAS to pay for that test if it's required. Now, in talking to everybody, I called Steve Crandall, who is a member of the water board. Because during the meeting, he mentioned that he has a background and degrees in microbiology and engineering, et cetera. And talked with him about it. And we both were looking up things like crazy, trying to find out what PFAS were while we were talking.
Petrofluoral, something or other.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, just a
And-
side note. If there's anything like that, that's like, cause the rural water puts on conferences and they do webinars and classes and everything. And if you guys ever think that you might want to attend something like that, let me know. Because like, there's times where, we've attended those where it's been like, man, if the council knew about this, or if the council was here about it, it
Yeah.
would be great. So.
Where is that?
They list them on their website,
Oh,
it's
okay.
Wyoming Association of Rural Water Systems,
so
but yeah.
the bottom line, I'm starting off thinking that we don't need to be involved with this because our water comes out of a well that's underground and the whole bit. Then if you read it far enough, you find out that the Forest Service uses PFAS as part of their fire retardant stuff. That comes out of the aircraft. And there was one over in Grace Canyon, so there was a possibility of it. I talked with the mayor. Steve Crandall suggested it. I signed the contract, the agreement, so we are now part of that lawsuit. No charge, no cost,
Yeah,
Just
it's basically
to the town.
insurance for us. So.
just so everybody knows.
But we didn't have our water tested after, or.
No, so
Basically-
That is not something that we should have had in front of the council before we signed our form.
I found out
We
on
didn't have
Wednesday
time.
and it had to be turned in on Thursday.
yeah,
So
so
I spent Wednesday trying to track stuff down.
where the state of Wyoming is the only state that doesn't have primacy on the water systems.
Yeah.
And so when the EPA releases these standards for water quality, unfortunately, it falls on EPA to hand out that kind of stuff for Wyoming, whereas the state in other places would probably handle it. So they have not said that they're definitely gonna put any forth any standard on it, or definitely we're gonna require systems to test for it or anything, but they're just saying that it's probably coming. It's not guaranteed, but it's probably coming, and so this is just trying to get out ahead of it.
Yeah, well, and I mentioned to Taylor, I read an article yesterday in Hawaii, they have gone to bottled water because they have found it in their water.
And was the water board notified of all this stuff yet?
They were involved.
They.
Well, yeah.
I talked to one member of the water
Yeah.
board.
The
Who had
person
a
who was
background
qualified to do it, like that
Okay.
position. So.
And I apologize. I mean, if you didn't want me to sign it, it's my fault. I did it. So, but it seemed like it made sense.
I think we were one of numerous municipalities that did it,
Right.
400, yeah, that did exactly the same. So, all right, so we're off the water board now.
So one other question. And then this might be further down too, like with our communication on things and finding things out. I do wonder, like. Just since we aren't having daily connections and meetings and stuff with all of each other, it's like that sort of stuff. Shouldn't be more what we're hearing between workshops. Just because sometimes nobody says anything. And then we have a workshop or I hear from somebody else and I'm like, well, maybe everybody should know this. And I'm not just talking about that situation, I'm just in general, like.
Yeah, I think we try to get out as much as I can. Things going on, but I don't know what you want.
Well,
I mean, do you want to know if there's a water line break or if somebody hits a fire hydrant
It's
or?
helpful to know, I,
I mean, we send that out just.
a community.
Well, we sent it out an email,
Well,
yeah. I
I
mean,
think
somebody
that's-
ran over a fire hydrant a couple of days ago, so. You know, I
Is that
don't
why the
usually
board
send
is
that
there?
out.
Oh.
On my end of town.
Yeah, I
I
don't
didn't do
usually. So, well, my question is, what would you do with the information? You
I
just
think
want to be
it's
more
more
informed?
beneficial to, because then it's, we do have people coming back to us. And asking questions, and usually it is in a group
Okay,
way, but.
we want to know about the water outage that went out.
Oh, no, I just.
Because
What-
I bring it up today because I was there.
Oh.
Chief,
The one that found it.
You're just driving down the road and saw water.
I got yelled at by plenty of other people beforehand to keep my eyes shut when I'm driving down the road around here. Because I'm the one that always finds leaks.
It was on Hartman.
Yeah.
And it was
So-
done prior to the town being formed. And it's the only time I have ever seen a connection to the pipe that had black plastic pipe, white plastic pipe, galvanized pipe, and copper, all in a space that long.
So eventually somebody was seeing it anyway.
Eventually that'll be done. That's that little section on Hardman we haven't done yet. So if you just kind of, I mean, I never know what everyone wants to do. I mean, we've had people in here constantly all day long. And I'll get anything from, I don't want to pay my water bill to, you know,
Yeah, and I guess
there's a
it's
dog
not
or, you
that-
know, so I just don't know.
How to determine what.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part, because I don't want to overwhelm everyone,
Well, I think like,
because it can be overwhelming some days.
oh, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, well, and I think that's just it where I'm at right now. It's like. The last week has been emails and trying to read them all and then you hack where they're at.
Yeah.
And it, and obviously that's because we're having these, but maybe this will also be remedied if we're having more workshops or whatever.
Yeah.
Or more consistent. So that we're not missing things. I mean, it was kind of like the requests for, I didn't know that a plowing, anything had been done, like an estimate by anybody. And yeah, I was doing all this other side homework. I was kind of sure that.
See, and I
everybody
thought you
was
knew
aware of.
because you asked me for it, so
I
I
did,
assumed
but
that
I
you knew.
found out from somebody
Oh,
else, and then
okay,
it was
yeah,
like, oh,
Yeah,
so, but I also feel like that stuff might be beneficial for everybody to know too, not just me. So I don't know. That's
but
just-
yeah, and that's why I have to kind of figure it out, because some of the councilmen aren't really worried about the day-to-day operations. They're worried about more what the statute says that they do is more legislation, but other councilmen want to know everything. So I go, okay, what do you want?
Yeah,
Because that's what I don't know.
yeah, for sure. I
So-
understand, and I'm not
Yeah.
asking to
And
put
I have-
anybody on email.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, that's the other thing, I'm not asking like all the emails.
Okay.
Kidding, but yeah.
I feel the same way when they find something, like like the sign at the park that was knocked down. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did this happen? And then, yes. Anyway,
Speaking of.
moving on. Okay, we're never gonna get out of here. P and Z. We did P and
Oh,
Z,
you did
right?
P and Z already.
We did P and
Yes.
Z.
And then
Yeah,
I
NRB, we
NRB.
don't know. And finance board, we're gonna kind of float on
As
this
far
one,
as the dates.
because they're good. And they're fine. We do a lot of communication from them. So let's move on to general discussion. We've got the
Oh,
Hardman Bridge.
On NRB real quick,
Yep.
you talked to, oh, Victor's gone, about the sign, what happened with the sign, do we know? So for those on the council, it's. The
The sign at the
Park
trail.
sign, the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
Foxrun Park map,
Yeah, at the end.
it got
It got knocked
It
over.
got
somehow.
broken by, we assume plowing in the winter, the
Yeah.
big giant post, and so it was all catawonkus, and now it's completely gone.
Yeah,
Did you
they're getting it
And we
fixed.
don't know where it is, so.
Public Works has it,
They have it right
because
now.
they're getting a new one.
Okay.
Apparently, no,
This is what it is.
I don't think anybody's actually.
Yeah, so that's, I mean,
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody paid attention to that thing,
Hold,
but on
please.
the,
I have it.
he's the picture of the,
Oh, yeah.
the compass on that thing said, northeast, south, south.
so there's.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, he sent me a picture of it and he said, since we have to fix this anyway, should we fix the compass? I said, please,
Yeah.
because
it
no one
was-
ever knows.
So
Nobody-
it's
It's been up there.
Public Works.
That I don't
Yeah.
know who's fixing it.
He's gonna try to figure out, where they got it from in the first place, because that's the other thing that we.
You should
don't
ask
know.
me. I know exactly. what to do.
Well, I
And
was
then-
gonna say if they,
Well, you weren't here when he was asking.
Oh,
You
okay.
couldn't ask me.
all right, cause yeah.
I know where it
we could
came from.
Work with Victor, cause I mean, they'll,
Yeah, but NRB didn't order it.
so
I ordered it.
you ordered
so.
it. Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
they usually do all the signage and stuff, at least now, so to have them in that,
Yeah, yeah.
would be good, so,
Yeah,
but you talked about.
yeah, Victor, we talked about it this morning. It's
Okay.
like, what happened to our sign? I said,
Then I will not waste our time. now.
And just know, those sign holders were made by the scouts, and so, I mean, we put them back together a few times, and I'm not really sure what happened to this one, so. Anyway, okay, so we're moving on from that one. All right, can we go to general discussion?
Yes.
We need to talk about the Harbor Bridge and the Middle Branch Bridge.
Yes.
So you all want a public meeting, and I don't have a problem with that, but do we have a public meeting for just Hardman? Or do we have it, just do them both and get it over with? And that's my question. Because we need to just make decisions on both of those bridges. Or do you just want to do Hardman?
Well, are we gonna have the road report
No,
anytime soon?
I don't know. I don't even have any asked about that one. He'll be here next week on Thursday, if you're back.
Next
Ryan
week?
said he would have it. by
Yes,
now.
yes, he did tell us we would have it by now, but I have not talked to him.
So we have the three options for Hardman.
We have the three option.
Are we voting on that right now or today?
Yeah, I took it off because you wanted to change it, so.
Okay, so, I mean, we should probably have something, if we want to present those options to the townspeople, you know, whoever decides to show up. We should probably do that as soon as possible, because
Yeah,
know, I'm
I
quite
agree.
sure we're probably running into timelines for ordering things and all that kind of stuff.
Yep,
Well, the question on the Hardman Bridge, they're all the same width and same height. So it just comes down to what the construction type is, whether it's the galvanized or the concrete or the,
I think there were two gaps.
There was.
yeah, the two of them.
I do know that Willie spoke with the county road and bridge,
Yeah, man,
and he said, if you can, steer away
Concrete.
from those metal.
because of the amount of, yeah,
We have corrosive
Maintenance.
soil and corrosive water around here, so it's a pretty good chance that it's gonna eat at.
Well, I think, I mean, I can appreciate that, but the town engineer made recommendations and said nothing in anything we've seen so far about additional maintenance for any of the galvanized.
I
ones.
did ask that question and I found that very interesting because when I asked it, Ryan said. They're all said good for 75
Yep.
years and they're all the same.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah,
I got the
that's
email right here.
the county bridging guy who has 100 and what did he tell me, 124 bridges. Said you'd be better off with the cement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
going
And
with
he's
cement.
also for long term.
Asked him, what, like, one of the bigger concerns was, and he made it sound like it was more at the time. That
Oh, that was
he
Dave
spoke with him.
that dealt with the time issue. That the road would be done.
No, when I spoke with him,
Oh, okay.
it was something that he brought up. And so I guess I'm like looking at, that and the maintenance and everything, and I'm saying that. It's basically, what, $60,000 almost,
Mhm.
and I just don't foresee a brand new
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
bridge costing. $60,000 in maintenance.
I thought 60,000 was the
Was
difference.
It is what she's saying, it's like, because if they're saying there's a
The
worry about
difference,
corrosion
yeah.
or whatever. I
Yeah,
think
I see what you're saying there, but what about the fact that I think the one was 4 weeks to replace it and the other was 2.
I think
So
my,
we displaced half of our town for 4 weeks.
well,
So we're
Compared to 2.
yeah, we're-
Or
yeah,
$70,000.
that, and then
Yeah.
also, I think it's. The 2 weeks could take 4 weeks and the 4 weeks could take 2 weeks for the way things happen. It's construction, so I don't think those are guaranteed numbers either. And to have it cost $60,000, I just don't see the reasoning behind it. But I mean, if we're gonna have a public meeting, because I'll be honest, I didn't really read that. I thought we were doing the motion on it. So that's
Yeah,
why
I
I
changed it.
was.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, let me ask you a
Thank you.
question, because you said that you had been working with other engineers.
So
I
it
asked you
was-
for the name of those engineers.
Yeah, so I was just talking to them, but it
Okay.
wasn't changing the,
Oh, I thought you were,
no,
Okay,
I mean,
good.
that what Ryan's gave us, I mean, I'm
Okay.
not looking to change that.
okay, good.
It was just asking questions, because to me, it was like. Is there nothing, because Willie had also mentioned the, that we should go with the more expensive one and his reason behind it. Was the time wise, you know, it would be
Mhm.
long, shorter amount of time, and then also, he didn't want it breaking down and stuff too. So then I called a few bridge people and they're like, these are basic maintenance, and then also talking to Ryan, that's what Ryan was saying, so I'm like, okay, so why are we looking to spend that much more money? It's hard for me to justify that
Okay.
in my mind, but
So let's figure out a meeting, because we're gonna have to add, if it's gonna be a public hearing, we should probably put an ad in the paper, don't you think? Like we normally will.
Public notice, yeah.
And
So we're talking 2 weeks, right?
Well,
I think a public hearing only has to be 8 hours, isn't that the response?
that might be.
Well, that might be true.
Yeah, that's special meetings.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna,
Oh,
because we do public hearings for other things.
We do them for
have
liquor
Liquor
licenses,
licenses
public
and
hearings.
The lot
The
combos.
lot combos are public hearings.
but those are connected to our meetings, right? Because
No,
No,
no, they're
Oh.
separate. We put them in the meeting, but it's
Oh,
a
okay.
separate meeting.
I
So
see
we
what
have
you're
to advertise them in the newspaper.
okay,
I mean, you don't have to go that route, but I'm just trying to make sure if you really want the people's opinion, how do we get to the most people? Yeah. And make sure they're
And-
here.
I mean, I think that the Hardman, and this is just me thinking out loud, we have 3 options.
Yeah,
Present them, done, done, done.
okay.
Engineers there, so Ryan should
Yeah, I'm
be
sure he's
there.
gonna be there. That's the thing I need to find
So
out.
I think that part of the meeting, other than, you know, people that are still don't understand that we're moving forward with Hardman. Hartman first would be shorter than the debate that may come on what to do about Middle Branch. But I do think we should probably just swallow the bitter pill and do them both at the same time, rather than have a separate discussion.
We don't have the options for Middle Branch yet. The question is,
Have we even
what
asked
are
for
they
any
gonna-
options
yes.
from engineering?
We
Well, it's the
actually
exact
asked,
same, he said, it was exact same options if we build a regular bridge. I thought that they were
no,
exactly the
when
same.
we went to Ryan
Yeah,
back well before we went to Hardman. The question was, do we put a bridge in, that cars can go across,
Mhm.
bridge for golf carts, or a walking bridge?
and yeah,
Those were the three options it was supposed to come back to us with.
see, and I don't remember,
That started.
Yeah.
I remember
last-
we talked about it, I just
August.
didn't remember that we asked him.
We
for
asked
that
for 'em.
Specifications.
Yep.
Yeah, because the only
That's
thing
first
I
I've heard
have,
of this.
So we don't really have any information. then.
well, we have the exact same bridges, because that was part of the application for ARPA. So we do have that,
So we could. do
and the
that, or we
citizens
could
could
do
easily
something else.
say, no, we
Right.
think a car bridge is more than sufficient.
Right,
So we do have those options.
So we do at
I'm
least have
with
that.
you,
yeah.
And I think we just do it.
Yeah, because
And most of our citizens are back, because that was a big deal, they want
Yeah,
to make sure they
so-
were back,
Right, right.
so we're doing what they're asking.
I know Ryan had the water flow and the Army Corps of Engineers take a look at Middle Branch Bridge, because I was up there when they were doing part of it. So, and that was. shoot, that was last September or October, so that one's been in the works longer than the Hardman Bridge.
Yeah,
Well, and then the other thing though, so with Middle Branch, so. Yes, I agree, absolutely. We have three options for that one too.
it's exactly.
Really,
Yeah.
but. The timeline to do that, like. When is that gonna be? Because it's not in the
Middle Branch.
budget.
It is not in this year's budget.
So what happens
But
in
I
the
would-
meantime?
Yeah, well, we can't open it, and it's gotta come out, and so that's probably what is gonna happen.
Mhm.
Is there a timeline that we were given that we have to do that? Okay.
No, but it's not on our property, and
And that's gonna
I
get
am
bigger.
hearing about the fact
Yes.
that, what are you gonna do, what are you gonna do?
Oh, boy.
So, yeah,
Just so, has everybody driven up Middle Branch up to where the road closes?
Mhm.
You see the pine tree off on the left-hand side of the road? That's on the guy on the right's property.
oh, yeah,
It's in the pictures, it's in the,
yeah,
whatchamacallit, the
So,
overview of it.
but I think you're right, I mean, we know what the options are on a bridge, we don't know how we're gonna pay for it, but we know what the options are. What we have never decided is, do we just don't have a bridge there, do we have a walking bridge? What do we
Yeah.
do?
Well,
And that might be-
separate. Or the only reason is because we don't have a timeline for that, and so. Like, should the, yeah, I'm hearing what you guys are saying, should we make it about both? But I don't know if that kind of gets lost in the translation of everything, if we just need to have more an informative. Hearing where it's like, we're. Explaining to everybody why we're off of Middle Branch, we're back to Hardman, this is our options, this is what we're trying to decide, Middle Branch or another. That's, I mean, if we start talking about that and people.
Well, or we could do this. We've done in the past, send out surveys to people
Mhm.
and said. You know, this is why we closed Middle Branch, or however you want to say it, and then said, what do you think the best options are?
Yeah.
Do we replace it? This is what it's gonna cost. Do we do, what do we do?
Right,
Gotta get those cars.
Yeah,
Yeah, the issue with those quick surveys is the background information is never provided.
right.
The fact that the bridge is on people's property, the fact that it's in the wrong direction, and it's washing out.
So
When
what
you
if,
send that stuff out, those surveys out, people never hear the gooey details of what's there, so.
okay,
I would also say,
So
oh, sorry, what?
if we could have that discussion as extra information at the public meeting hearing or whatever, hearings about Hardman,
yeah,
but let's also talk about, you know, Middle Branch, we can also talk about roads, we can talk about priorities, all kinds of things you can talk about in a public meeting, you know.
well, we can't obviously decide anything about Middle Branch because we don't
Yeah,
know
no.
yet, but we could at least, maybe we could provide some
Share
of
the
that background.
information and why we switched to Hardman too.
That,
Because
yeah,
a lot
and
of
then-
people aren't aware of that.
I'm
Maybe-
not aware of how the Hardman's worse.
Exactly, well,
And
and
they're both
and it's important.
Yeah,
too.
maybe after the meeting, so you presented the background info on Middle Branch, and then you could still do a survey after that to get more citizen input, I suppose, and then.
I would also say, like, some of the other meetings
I
that
know,
I've been to, like for the county and then like Alpine and stuff, I noticed that the engineer or whoever put the report together is the one that speaks, and I feel like it keeps,
Yeah,
Piece.
he would have to do it, yeah.
okay, I was
So I'll need to schedule it with Brian.
Okay,
But
But
I
you can
honestly, I don't
You're gonna
remember.
get into the issue of, okay, people,
So I don't remember asking him to do a cart path ever, but you may be right.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Ron, what did you say?
the reason I suggest we have the road study, if we had it, is people across the town other than in Middle Branch area can say, well, my road's more important than Middle Branch or.
Yeah, oh, I know.
So that's,
You
you know,
guarantee it.
hopefully we're able to talk about a priority system as to why Harmony is more important than, or Middle Branch is more important than chip sealing North Forest or whatever, so.
You're
Roads
gonna
are gonna be a whole lot
Talk to
longer.
Ryan, maybe you can shake his tree about the road study. Why are you
Yeah.
having that?
Sitting one right now. Yeah, he will be here on Thursday, so
Mhm.
we may end up trying to do it Thursday night,
oh, this
Like
coming
this
Thursday?
Thursday?
a week from Thursday, sorry,
Oh, the 18th?
yeah.
I won't be here, but that's okay.
The only problem would be the public notice will only go in that Wednesday's newsletter.
So you can send out some email blasts to people.
In the text too, or is this
I think it's still the
redundant
Zoom
then?
on the 18th.
Huh?
I'll just be, I'll be out of town, but I could Zoom on the 18th if it was open to Zoom.
You can put you in. Okay, let me see.
Sorry.
Email right
Oh,
now.
no, I was doing.
Or the
this email.
17th, oh, you're gonna be gone that day too, right? Wow.
I'm here on the 7th.
Cause actually, that's usually when he comes in the night before. And then,
Yeah, ask him,
cause the meeting's at 1, the water meeting,
ask him if he can do the 17th,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
night
that
of
would
the
be good.
17th.
Okay, well,
Yeah, because I know like when you had said you talked to the county.
Mhm.
we already know on the calendar.
It was talking about timing, like, should we even get any of those? big
Hold please,
happenings?
let me look real quick.
It's
Yeah,
being a pain in the butt.
I've got a zillion things open. It's a Thursday, how many things?
On the 17th, that would be the Wednesday.
Oh, that's Wednesday. Oh, that's right. No. You're out at 3:30.
Yeah. I have an appointment that I have scheduled months ago, so
I don't have to
I
check
can't
that.
reschedule it.
I'll tell you the 17th grade.
oh, I didn't know if we do something in the evening, if.
Yeah, it'll be in the evening. He has another meeting.
I don't know if I can make a Wednesday night, but I could the 18th. Is the 18th your thing then? Your
No,
job?
that's 17th.
Oh,
So I'll just tell him the
18,
18th.
yeah, I can listen on Zoom, that's
I can't. I wish my work would let me do that.
fine.
All over the place.
7. Coordinating calendar. I need to fix it when things open. I just read it again.
Okay, now can we go?
To this stuff.
So we'll get that scheduled. I'm gonna say the 18th is tentative.
Okay.
Be nice to just get this done, because you're right, we need to get this to bid. They want to do it in October when most of the
Yes.
water's out of there. Kristen brought up, Vista Drive. And what are we doing? And I'm just telling you, we're gonna patch it for next year when the water.
So,
I mean, it's not beautiful, but
right, I think if it, I mean,
If we're gonna patch it, like, I think we'll probably have to set some type of expectation about when they're doing that.
so they can't do when it's wet.
No, well, they've done that.
Well, they have. It's starting to pop out.
I get it,
Yeah,
but I think that's the thing, like, why I honestly thought to clear it was so that we didn't have to hear people complain about the potholes for all summer. I think it's more when you're in action, it looks a little better. And I mean, if we're gonna put some type of road base down, like having it there was my other idea. and having it getting compacted down. But if they're gonna just fill potholes, then
Yeah,
I,
it's not the best solution, but I think
Oh,
it's
no,
the best
that's-
solution for this year.
yeah, and if
Because we
that's
all
the
know it's
case-
coming out next year anyway.
Yeah, if that's the case, I think there just needs to be an expectation of how often they're filling the potholes and.
Just a side note, so
Yeah.
Kurt Richmond up at the association, who's the, I don't know if he's the golf course manager or whatever, but is that what his title is? I was walking the dog and he was out working on the greens, and so we started chatting, and he was asking me when Vista was gonna get done, and he was talking about the association has a substantial easement on the side of Vista where the ditch is.
Yep, they do.
And he was asking about being able to put a sidewalk in there, and I found my ears perked up. We didn't really talk about details, but maybe there's something to collaborate with them on that when everything gets done next year, whenever it's gonna get done.
Yeah, so that's part of the funding. I won't get next year, but
Yeah.
I think when I talked to you guys, I talked to you about the TAP funding,
Mm-hmm.
which would be,
Yes.
and what I would love to do is extend this walkway all the way up Vista as far as we
Yes.
can.
Mhm.
And we can get grant money for that.
Yeah.
We have to apply through YDOT. It's too soon.
Okay.
We can't do it yet.
And is that where we have to kind of present the TAP or that, their report and stuff? Do we have to include that in getting the funding?
Yeah, we already have the report. So, and it's identified in the report.
Okay.
The only difference in the report, it has it on the other side of the road and we would move it to that side.
Yeah,
And then it also has, I think, 2 bus stops, which we need to do something.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
and that, I think that would be a huge win if we could get that
when
done.
is the grant window open? Is it an annual thing? I mean,
Yeah, it's annually. Yep,
Okay.
yep. It's called it's a transportation alternative plan.
Yeah.
Used to be called Safe Routes to School and they've changed the name of it.
Okay,
So,
But we already have the studies already done. So
Yeah.
we just need to,
okay.
but we'll have to.
I just
apply
thought
for
that was
one.
interesting. I didn't, because I'm
Yeah, I
still
didn't think
learning
about-
about the easements and all that, but
Yeah.
he made the comment, because the other thing that's come up in association meetings lately is, flooding, which
I
we're
know,
getting to
very-
next. And so he was talking about things that they may want to be doing anyway with that ditch, and like, well, it'd be great if it could all get done at the same time. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I did talk to Matt about that as well, and he said that we could run a pipe down it, and I told him there was driveways and roads off of it, and he said. You could do something like a metal pipe of some sort down it,
Mhm.
underneath and,
Yeah.
or even to the side.
We don't know.
So,
It's not the person.
No,
That's
it's
the-
the-
it would be the association, right?
Yeah.
yeah, well, they do own it, but if we need to figure, I mean, if we're gonna put a
Right.
sidewalk in.
Oh, yeah. we wanna
Like,
cover.
yeah, and then another thing that after talking with the HOA that kind of came up with the flooding. I know how we have our thing about our like fire hydrants and everything, a certain boundary around those. I was wondering if we could make an ordinance. With the same with landscaping around the actual ditches and.
That I don't know. The Hardman ditch,
Yes.
well, that was, they have a pretty
35.
big easement,
Yeah,
but I don't know about the road ditch.
okay,
I don't know.
well, I just thought it's, I mean, I can look more into it, but I just.
Yeah.
Contact the. I don't even know, because I don't think it has a ditch master. so-
They do, if
Oh,
it's,
the broke
if it's, yeah, if it's
Oh.
an established irrigation ditch, they have a ditch master.
But
what
it's
if
different
it's
than
road
this one.
They, like I said. if
They
it's an-
should have one.
If it's an established irrigation ditch, they have a ditch master. You can find out that information through the state engineer's office.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Okay.
But I don't think the Broke Ditch has a ditch master,
I'm sure they do.
because that's associations.
If they have water rights, they're supposed to have
And
somebody.
they do
that's-
have water
I
rights.
think Willie told me it wasn't the same guy. as
Yeah, I
this,
don't
but
It
think
is, no, it's not going to.
Is it, what is this one called again?
This is the Hardman ditch.
It, that it comes all the way up here, okay.
It goes all the way up to the north end of town.
So I
Goes all
can.
the way out to Etna.
It does go all the way.
Oh, really? That's crazy. So I just contacted Wyoming.
The state engineer.
Yeah, it's way up there.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Yeah,
it's-
it's on the map. Okay,
Yeah.
where are we at?
Okay.
I'm through. I'm on Vista. Now I'm off of Vista. So future legislation, this shouldn't take very long. I just kind of want to know what each councilman, if you're working on an ordinance, what is it? Yeah, just kind of
Look
got
on safety board.
I put Councilman Ellis on first because he's got the giant ordinance. And so,
Whole thing.
so you're working on buildings, right? Okay. And that's a big one.
Yes, oh boy, is there.
And that,
And it keeps getting bigger, right?
does that include the commercial buildings or just like homes? Or
Well-
what does that include?
The IRB is new, and there's the ICB, which is also new.
IBC and IRC.
It's okay.
International Residential Code.
Okay,
And then there's supposed to be another one coming out shortly.
Yeah.
So the question is, do we wait or do we go with the? With what's already out?
So you can explain it really quick. So every 3 years they come out with an update. A lot of times they basically update the last one. If they found problems with the one they did, then they'll update it, kind of like we do with them all. So it's about every 3 years. We've adopted the 2018, we're now in 2023. So do we look at adopting a newer one? Or we stay at the 18? And I think what I hope that the board is looking at is when we adopted the 18, we left half of it out. So we're really only at the 2006 and probably need to update it more.
Yeah, that's about it.
There was some challenges getting it passed. So let's just say that. So, but anyway, I know they're working very hard on it. So
and it's that the
That's the building
residential and the building.
I think they're looking at both, right? The International Building Code and the International Residential.
Okay.
So I've got that one. Councilman Denny, have you, what legislation are you working on anything right now?
Yes, there's one I'm working on. It was a safety board.
Okay,
I had it half written, but I'm still waiting for some wording from the council itself, what they want to do. And I think in the January or February Water Utility Board, they had some recommendations for some of the town's water ordinances
chapter 50.
that I haven't looked back into yet, but
Yeah, we need to review that one, not today. There's a few things on there that
right.
I think are gonna be a challenge, but anyway, okay, so.
Commander, has P&G finished looking at solar at all?
No, they're still in the process.
Too, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, solar, you're right.
And it's got to expand beyond solar, because I just stumbled onto something 2 days ago. Which there's little boxes that they now have that directs the wind and generates, sits on the ground. So it's gotten more complicated.
I hate to keep bringing up stuff in buildings, but since we live in a different world today than we used to, there is now a job that's called a forensic engineer, right?
Yeah.
And they work for insurance companies, and we recently had one of them call here because they weren't gonna pay for a roof. And so they're checking as to when our building codes came into effect, and so it's quite interesting to see the world we live in today.
That's the one where the guy was building it himself, or is this the other one?
I don't know, it's somebody whose roof went, I guess, so it's pretty interesting to taking a look at those codes. They wanted to know when we put codes into effect and all of those kind of things. So it's yeah, it's a lot, there's a lot. Forensic engineer, a new term. Okay, so Councilman Rock, short-term rental. You're gonna fix that? I am going to work. Thank you.
Good luck.
That was not as bad as the one that I'm supposed to be working on. that I
Uh-oh.
Kind of given up on nuisance ordinance, yeah.
Oh, God.
I'm at the point where I'm about to hand it to the attorney and said, okay, help make this legal. Okay, so we've got the short-term rentals and Councilman Merrill. What do you?
So-
Councilman?
While we're actually on this is good. So I was doing business permit and so one of the things that I have found kind of across the board is about certain types of businesses that are sexually explicit. And I didn't know if I really need to put something like that in there or.
I think it's in our
Okay.
zoning ordinance.
Would it?
Actually,
Okay.
it excludes certain types of businesses, so
Okay.
you might want to.
So I can, okay, because in
Yes.
almost everywhere else, it was kind of included in the business permit section.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, oh boy, I'm getting in way over my head.
Well, and you
It just-
could, in that ordinance, you could refer it to the zoning, to the
Okay,
commercial zoning
so
section.
just find
I'm
out
pretty
what that
sure it's
is.
in there.
Okay, and then if I can do something about an ordinance for the ditch, I thought that might be good, just to help with flooding.
Yeah, I don't,
But
because it's not
I'll-
town property, I'm not sure. Well, I don't know. What I would do is when I start to do this, I'll start looking at other towns. Okay, what do you have? And you can just, our website where we have all of our ordinances, you can search by word or anything and it'll give you all of the communities, or you can search specifically in Wyoming.
Oh,
And
okay.
it'll give
That's
you,
nice.
so a lot of times I'll look at Cody or Laramie or
Yeah.
some of these other places.
Okay,
That one,
then I'll reach out to the ditch master too, just to see.
okay, and I may recommend that you look at our contractor's license. Because we have a lot of problems
We
with
don't
that
have a
ordinance,
license.
That's what I was.
ordinance, whatever it is. If you would look at that one, registration. And maybe we combine it into one, or we make that a business license, but a different type of business license.
I was thinking
Here's-
one. That's what, yeah.
Okay,
Here's my question. We have two things here. First one is on contractor's license. License implies they have met some kind of quality.
Mhm.
If you're gonna do, it's the reason it's just registration.
A registration, isn't that what it's called?
That's what we are now.
Mm.
I'm responsible for that one.
Oh, good,
Because
okay,
we never sat down and said, what is the requirement? Get a license.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna go with a contractor's license, you need to figure out what it is they have to
I think
do.
we're better off.
Separate, like, I think putting that under the business permit is good.
You know, permit is the same as, to my mind, is the same as a registration.
Right.
But
But
watch
you're saying
the
not
word
to call it
license.
a business
Yeah.
license.
Yeah,
Watch the word license.
license is a common term, I
I
think
think
that's
that's
why
why I
I
said that
call it
too.
that too.
Yeah,
And
And if you start to look at ordinances, they're probably gonna say that, but.
yeah, okay.
Lou, in reference to what Kirsten just said,
Mhm.
some of the short-term rentals are being used for inappropriate purposes, parties. So you may want to keep that in mind.
Hopefully that will also help us.
As far as I know, it hasn't hit here yet. Look at the big
Oh, you're
signs.
looking at the cities, yeah, oh, I'm sure.
So I think that was all I had.
These addresses are, I know that was away from.
Yeah, okay,
So Kirsten, on ditches, the Hardman ditch, I've had a lot of experience with them because I live on the Hardman ditch. But it enters the town on the south end between the number 4 green and the houses there. And goes up number 5 fairway on the left side. And all those houses are along on the other side of the ditch. And then it crosses Middle Branch Road and turns and goes across the road into Fox Run Park. And follows, it goes down into Leisure Valley's property and comes back out on the airstrip and past town. But that company is Hardman Ditch is owned by a different irrigation company that irrigates in Etna. But they have the right to come in and clean their ditches and throw crap on the ditch banks and stuff.
Yeah.
They've torn up my bridge, they've covered up my property and my plants and stuff. Last year, they actually sprayed my plants or whatever, so. Any kind of ordinance the town puts together to control landscaping, that they're gonna laugh at. That this company has a right to maintain that ditch and,
Well, I'm not talking about for them, I'm talking about for citizens that are blocking certain, like, cause there are easements on every ditch.
Mhm.
And I don't go on a.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the mayor's right that it said something in the land uses that they can't impede drainage
Okay,
of any
So I
kind.
guess
So not
that-
just ditches, but any just natural. drainage.
natural, and it sounds like that is happening, is kind of what the area was explaining.
I know of at least a couple.
So,
places where they've
yeah,
done stuff.
Yeah, and so they thought that, well, I thought that eliminating some of the landscaping that happens around it would allow for them to then keep it clear and we wouldn't have.
I'm not sure the town has the authority on private properties landscaping.
We do.
There's gonna be an easement on any ditch that goes through, so it's
Right.
more.
But I
respecting the
don't think
easement. I
that's
think
But
it's more-
it's not a town easement, it's owned by the owner of the ditch.
Yeah, I don't know that we would be able to say that, yeah.
Okay, well, I
It's
just
worth
reach out to
looking at,
these
yeah.
guys and just see.
Yeah, look at
Well,
it and see.
It's mainly to, I was just thinking because the flooding might then happen on the town's property and then we're dealing with it anyway, so
We can
that's
deal
why.
with ours.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure.
I
So,
think the only issue the town has, the town owns the culverts across Hardman and across the Brogue Ditch. And if that culvert floods, it's the town's responsibility because the town is the one that's plugging it, so.
Yeah.
It's like the town's responsibility to keep those dull culverts clean and free from rocks and being dented in and whatnot. If you look at the the turnoff from Vista onto Cedar Creek, it goes across a road ditch. It's bent and dinged in or whatever, so it needs to be kept clear, so.
Okay.
But I'm not sure the town will have any progress and try to write an ordinance on homeowners keeping the ditch banks clear or whatever, so.
Well, they have to keep the fire hydrants clear, so it's
Yeah, but
kind of.
that's on town property.
They're on town property.
And the town owns that.
Yep,
It's right away.
it's right in our property.
Yeah. I just feel like the easement should play in their favor in some way, so we'll see.
Let's see what you find out.
investigate it a bit.
We can all sit here and say no, right?
Well, yeah,
If you find out, that's great.
yeah.
I know that the ditch writer for Hardman Ditch is a little cocky SOB that I like to deck him a couple times.
He's my buddy. He likes me. Of course, I'm not, well, I am on the ditch, actually, but it's in my
Yeah.
backyard. So, okay, so we kind of moved on. So you're doing building permits, okay.
Yeah, I
And
am.
then I have the,
Business permit.
yeah, you're doing business
Yes, sorry, I want to
permits.
clarify. Okay, yes, that's what I'm doing.
You want building?
I know I don't.
And I was glad to give you mine, because I don't have time, but I've got the one that Rue helped me with. Thank you very much. So that was just the consistency between boards. I think that's ready to go for June. I think, so
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
read
get it
it.
in there and get those done. So, good. All right, let's see. Did you want to talk more about flooding? Because flooding came up. Anybody have anything?
I
else?
sent out that one MailChimp notice.
did.
We can send out another one, I guess, if I haven't looked to see what the.
It's
emergency
slowed down quite a bit
management is,
because it's been cold, so.
Yeah, so, but we could always, I can update it, because I did forget to embed that link you sent me from the county website.
Yeah. I
But
haven't
I
had
mean, the
anything.
kiosk is still out there. I don't know if anybody's.
I saw somebody out there.
There's
They're
probably,
taking sand.
there's at least one person a day sometimes. more,
Yeah,
so.
that's good.
Yeah, so they're definitely doing that. Okay, so we're gonna move on to, and you added the
The
workshop
last little thing.
scheduling.
Yeah, the only thing there was I wanted to ask if we could potentially add another workshop before our June meeting, specifically to make sure that everybody's good with the budget changes. Is that, I just feel like sometimes, and Councilman Merrill talked about this earlier, like sometimes there's a lot, and especially with the budget, I feel like this month might have been useful to have a pre-meeting as well. So that would be my suggestion, is that we could potentially work in another workshop. I know we've been trying to work in lots of things already.
Yeah.
So are these joint meetings?
I
gonna be-
Cause
So
I've been
Mayor?
doing this for 10 years, it's just normal stuff, so
Yeah.
I'm fine doing more workshops if that's what you guys wanna do.
Just
I
for the
think-
budget especially. or-
Yes, the budget. Yeah, honestly, there's been like times where. I mean.
But you'll see
our
this,
workshop is
you'll
so
see a
long.
ton, and then it kind of slows
It'll
down.
slow down a lot.
And then
But
it
we
gets
can do
crazy
that.
again come January, so that's fine.
Yeah,
Ron, what were you gonna say?
Are these joint meetings with the boards gonna be considered town meetings?
Yes, because they're a quorum.
Okay,
Yep,
so
And
you
then-
can afford to pay for those?
huh? Is the
You
board
can
paying?
afford to pay for those?
No, the taxpayers are paying for
Well, I'm
that.
just making sure it's in,
I do like understand like trying to keep that part limited.
Yeah.
But I also feel like stuff might start getting missed. I mean, I feel like I've just been a little behind when we have like these days. Where I'm like, wait a second.
So far, this one's not as long as the last. one.
Well, this one's pretty long. Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah.
So Kirsten, about 2 years from now, when somebody else comes on you'll finally be the expert.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I know, and it's funny because it's, sometimes I feel like all I'm doing is training new people.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Like,
So every 2 years,
This
yeah.
is breaking me in, so.
Yeah, so if these guys run again, then that'll be good.
Yes.
Veterans now.
And
Then we won't have to do
So the other thing was, and I appreciate both Kristen and Mayor for going back and forth with me about minutes. And I understand, at least I believe I understand from the statute, the requirement is pretty loose as far as like what you really have to. I guess there's just some where I would really like to see more detail if we could add it in there. And I kind of canvassed and I looked at Alpine's minutes and I looked at Afton's minutes, and I tried to look at Thames, but their website really wasn't working. I could say, and it was like Alpine was a lot more detailed. Hampton, probably not so much. So
Mhm.
I understand it's.
Yeah, the counties are not too much either.
Yeah, so I kind of,
So.
that's my personal preference. I
okay.
would like to see more detail if we can.
And-
That's all.
And so my question is always gonna be, why? Is that for you or is it for the public?
It's for the public, and actually I forgot, there was one thing on the minutes too, like I know sometimes like this meeting's recorded.
Right,
They're all recorded. They're
Right,
always
oh, right,
recorded.
so, but where does that go? Is that something that can be posted on the website? Does it end
They're
up?
kept on the server, and if somebody wants to listen to them, they're. absolutely-
yeah,
Oh,
so
we-
we keep
I
all
would-
of listen to.
I noticed like on the Alpine website, for instance, they have agenda minutes audio and they have a link, I guess, because you probably by statute have to
We could do
record,
that.
or I don't know if you have.
We could do that.
I mean, then that would help, I think,
For the
if someone
workshops.
really wants to listen to.
Can
3
we
hours
see,
worth of us
we
talk.
can, and we can see how many people actually have it.
Yeah, and you may find it's
I
zero,
don't
I don't
know.
know, but it's more of a, they don't know what, unless they come, please do, you know. couple dedicated people that come.
Yeah, we can do that.
I was thinking of it really from the residents, if someone may wanna download a document and do a 10-minute read, they may not want to listen to 3 hours of audio or an hour-long
There
council
are.
meeting, so that's why the written document, I was like, if we could just add a little more here and there.
I gave Gina last week, I came across how to take meeting minutes, complete with templates and stuff. Gave a copy to Gina, so you may wanna.
So on a side note with Granicus is something that Taylor found out, but I had also talked to the town clerk of Jackson about this. Cause they use something called Civic Plus, which is, they have the clerk plus on there. But it actually puts together agendas and then you send out that block to, like, everybody would have access to it. And they could add what they wanted to it, and then that goes live.
No, I love that.
And it's pretty sophisticated, apparently Granicus does it the same as the clerk plus, or civic clerk is what it's called, but. Cause I was being nosy, she had her laptop out while we were trying to do other stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing over there? So on a break, I said, will you just kind of run me through what you're talking about? Cause she was putting a meeting together right then and there, she could. It would post to their website when it was ready, it had the Zoom link in the agenda, it had everything. Like if it was a piece of information, like what we do with like the sheriff's report, they could click on it on the agenda and it would show them that information.
That's good.
So it put everything together, but the problem with the minutes is that, it's a lot, like with the council meeting going on,
Yes.
I really don't have the ability to take that detailed in minutes.
Mhm.
And then after the fact, my memory is not so fresh. So then it comes to the question of it's just how detailed, because if I'm gonna have to sit and do a transcript of the
Yeah.
entire meeting, then that becomes a little burdensome.
Well, it's tedious, yeah.
So,
There's some balance somewhere.
sent a message to you about the YouTube that we had online, like half of them, they don't come over audio, like audio.
So
live.
that, we looked into it before about having somebody set it up, and basically what we have up there is what he quoted, what he was gonna provide for us. He was gonna charge
It's
us
10
like
grand.
10 grand to
I don't
do it.
think
You can
we
call us
need
back.
anything
And so it's,
Yeah.
the last meeting I can tell you, because my dad did said the same thing, he's like, you can't hear anything, and I think it was my fault for having a microphone setting wrong on there.
Okay.
It's just a matter of I need to sit down and play with that and get it set up,
So I
but.
think that would help a lot, just because I totally get, it, yeah, because you're already taking notes and doing all this during, for other
really
stuff
hard.
during a meeting. And so I think that, but I do feel like part of the minutes, because that's what last year I was going back to, because not everything was available on YouTube all the time, like it was hard to find. I was reading the minutes quite a bit about past years, because it did kind of help guide me through.
Mhm.
And that was just as a
Things that
citizen,
happened, yeah.
but it also showed like when we were making progress on things and when we weren't. And so that's part of it too. As far as this was kind of what I wanted to mention with the minutes, as far as like what Zach was saying. I don't think very many people knew that we were short on people and short. And so that's part of why putting that in the minutes was important. And I do have a problem with the fact that he wasn't signed up, but he spoke anyway. And so even saying like, oh, well, it doesn't matter, but it does, even just as him as a citizen, because it's important that other people are aware of what he was saying. So I think that's why I'm like, I think that is worth mentioning.
So let me ask you a question on that, because that was, and it's not on the minutes, but that was kind of a weird situation, because he was not signed up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And afterward, he said, I wasn't going to talk until you told me it was okay. And of course, I told him it's okay. So. But I felt like it was the right thing to do, even though he didn't follow procedures. So
Yeah,
anyway,
well, and that might be, I mean, that was kind of the first time that we had the,
we had anyone.
to speak, or anyway, yeah, I don't think we've really had anybody stand up at this is in participation, so it's also critiquing a little bit, like with how long they have. You know, we should just maybe be careful when we're beeping people, some of the other meetings I've been to, like maybe at a better opportunity beeping them. It was more like somebody would raise their hand and say, you know, and kind of slow them down or stop them. If they weren't, then it was like, okay, you're done, you know, versus just, oh, now your time's up. Because I noticed a few times you were like, oh, well, we'll let him talk, and then now we gotta let the other guy talk.
Which was the right, probably the right.
Oh, no,
thing to do.
it was,
And it
but,
does say in the instructions. that
Yeah.
I can do that.
but
so.
maybe just to change that up a little bit might make the discussion a little better. But I think what Zach was saying, I mean, even though the way he was saying it was inappropriate, it was still worth documenting at times,
He
so.
has, he's hearing impaired, which I think a lot of people didn't know that. And
So
so when I was trying to get his attention, he could not.
They didn't realize.
Then I
Well,
felt
yeah,
bad because his
being
wife
on-
is in the back row crying and. I'm like,
Oh,
Oh my God.
I was gonna say, being on Zoom too, I could hear him, but I couldn't really see and I couldn't hear as much.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, I knew it was a pretty intense council meeting
Yeah.
last time. so
Yeah, that
it
was,
I think having the scheduling or having the workshop and the YouTube videos a little better. Like having the audio from the workshops available to people and then having the audio and even the visual. 'Cause
Yeah, if there's a little bit, but
On.
the odd
So
hearing
there might
it's
be-
probably.
So the workshop is being recorded through Zoom, so it's
Okay.
just gonna be that recording that goes up,
Okay.
so they'll just see this.
Yeah.
Ron,
Does this go up on YouTube?
It doesn't, I
Okay,
haven't,
yeah.
but I can,
Well.
and I don't
thought
put this
the
on
audio was
YouTube,
good
but I
too.
can put this on the website, because I can
Okay.
upload it just to the website.
Oh,
I think
okay.
maybe on the website
Yeah.
I
or,
think that's.
or even your audio recording if we want to
audio
experiment and
might
see
be
if
good.
that's.
Yeah.
Efficient, I'm not
Anybody
sure.
bothers.
And I don't know if I
to
can pull out just the audio.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I hate to say it, but I am not an editor like that, I just.
Well,
That's
just
okay.
on YouTube, I thought was really good, like even if
Yeah.
it's not on the website, the YouTube is probably easier even to upload. But it was just more that when you can't hear it, then it's like the minutes are more important then, so I think that was. kind of part of it.
Yeah, and okay, last thing, sorry, on the minutes
That's
and the agendas, and I think I understand now, but I just want to make sure, so. Whenever these come out, like for instance, our agenda says draft on it, so in my head, I'm like, okay, so I can. Say I'd like to add this or comment on that, same thing with the minutes, usually it's draft.
Mhm.
But and I think Mayor, you had emailed me about this, like, should we have a cutoff? No more changes
Yeah, I
at
think we kind of talked about.
by
that.
9 o'clock Monday morning or something, because.
So what, is our cutoff, did it change because we changed the day of the meetings?
Yeah,
Cause it
these were
used to
not
be,
wondering.
yeah, cause it used to be
Because we had Wednesdays.
Monday at
before,
9, but we were doing our meetings on, Monday at 9, we were doing our meetings on Wednesday.
Wednesdays.
So now we're doing our meetings on Tuesday. Does that give you enough time? Otherwise, it's gonna be Thursday morning.
Where it's the weekend, right in the middle of it is where it gets complicated,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's days that I don't, that's not working days.
It's not for you, and then the
So-
thing is, like, unfortunately for me, sometimes I'll catch up on a Saturday or a Sunday,
No,
which is,
checking
you
them all
know,
the
then
time.
you walk into an email box full of like 5 different messages.
As long as like the changes to the ordinances are well in advance, that's fine, as far as changes to the agenda. I would still say Monday is fine,
Monday at 9.
because
And
most of the time when we have to make changes like that,
Mhm.
they're not that big of a
Yeah.
change. It's like you said with the upcoming, that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
I had just forgotten about adding it to it. I don't think I had it on the calendar when I was.
Sometimes I just, you know.
But, and because those
As
those
you
are
know.
bad. It's just, I have to be able to get an email out with the agenda on it, and so,
Yeah.
that's when I kind of like.
So let me put,
Yeah.
let me recap this. So Monday at 9.
Okay.
For agendas,
Yeah,
right?
Mhm.
And minutes,
and minutes.
Yeah,
okay.
And
Yeah,
it's the
my,
same
my
thing,
concern with,
I completely forgot that you were
Yeah,
on Zoom,
yeah.
so.
yeah, and my concern with the minutes is if council people are all changing it. And then the town council has to vote
Mhm.
and you know, how do we make sure that we have a consensus when everybody has got their own opinion on what
Yeah,
they want to
what's
see?
what they heard or.
Yeah,
captured,
so that's what I'm all careful about.
And we actually ended up posting 3 different versions of the minutes, because we count, like after, so tomorrow I'll put everything together with how people voted, and then the mayor and I will sign it and attest it, and that's minutes.
That is-
Right,
So then,
Hold on.
so then the typed up minutes is really just overkill.
Oh, yeah, that's.
That's what I had to say, which is why
Ah,
my
yeah,
name.
that's why I was so confused. And I,
Yeah,
it's
that's okay.
We come to find out that having 3 signatures.
That is not necessary.
It was completely unnecessary. It was something that got carried over from forever ago, and
For like way
never
forever
got
ago,
questioned.
2006,
Completely unnecessary.
only on the budget. We didn't carry it over on anything else.
Yeah. Apparently they did every ordinance that way, which.
Initially. So let me recap again. Monday at 9, right?
yes.
And that's for minutes,
And
And
again,
and
agendas.
agendas, okay? Ordinances. We can't change them now.
no, I have. to
Ordinances
post
have
10
got
days
to be
beforehand, so-
10 days prior, so yeah,
Technical point,
10 days, yes,
the mayor sets the agenda.
correct.
The agenda can be modified at the meeting, providing somebody moves to modify it and it's seconded.
That is true also.
Same on the minutes.
Yeah, and so that the mayor and I had this chat on
We did.
email
We
back
did
and
go back
forth,
and forth
and
about
my
that.
point to that was. To try and avoid a lot of extra motions during a meeting,
I
if,
understand.
especially if the rest of the council agrees or doesn't have a problem with a change or an addition, so.
I understand completely, just.
But you're absolutely right.
Procedurally, correct.
Procedurally, you are absolutely right.
Understood.
And
And
there's
I
no,
will-
and there's no discussion on a motion for minutes. Minutes recess, adopting the agenda, I think that's about it. And adjourn.
So when you, like, if I wanted to amend something or modify it. That's at the workshop, not the meeting, is that what you were saying?
Depends on which agenda you're talking.
Well, it's one of the meeting, right? I didn't realize this was a different one, so. But now I know.
Yeah, there's two
so I won't do
agendas.
that second.
Yeah.
Well, there is, and I just was like.
That's
oh,
okay.
The first one, so. How do you go about doing that then?
At night,
Mhm.
this is what you'd have to do. First of all, you would have to ask to have it taken out of the consent agenda
Okay,
and put into the regular agenda. And then it would go down to the bottom of the regular agenda. And then when I got to the minutes, then I would ask you, why is it here?
Yeah.
Basically. It's not, I mean, it's not like, that's not.
yeah.
Exactly, but yeah, and then, and you would say, you know, I would like to add this, 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 and I'll make a motion to amend it, and that's what we do.
Okay.
And then
That-
I'll ask
the-
for a second,
The only.
and
problem
if you
with
don't
that-
get a second, then it doesn't happen, it's dead.
The only problem with that is you have to be really, really specific on your motion. So if you're saying I'm moving to add and you want to add a sentence, you have to, that sentence needs to be pretty precise.
I
Right.
can't hardly hear it on you too. So.
And I'm gonna try and
No, it's
play
okay.
with that tonight to see if I
Okay.
can't make it better, because
Okay.
I did listen to it again and it was really
I
bad
listened
this
to it
last
too,
meeting. The
yeah.
previous meetings are not
It
so
wasn't
bad.
so
but
bad, but then, and then there was one like last summer that was horrible too, so I didn't know if
It's
we
probably just the
needed more
microphone
stuff.
setting.
Okay.
Yeah, we
And I
don't-
have a lot of people that can't come to them, so I'll direct them there, and then when they can't hear it, then I'm like, oh, go.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't have any feedback on that until after the fact, because
Right, oh.
then my dad says, oh, hey, by the way. let me get this for you."
Can't hear it, yeah.
Yeah, tell me that at 7, not at 9.
Right,
Right, yeah.
So the council meeting minutes, we can look at and provide any comments when the draft packet comes out.
Yes,
That's the
yeah,
time to like do that and
Yeah.
to get it.
And I'm gonna try to
In front
get
of
those
everybody
out a
else.
little quicker so that there is turnaround time,
Okay.
because I think we were shooting for Wednesday, the week before the council meeting.
Yeah,
I
it
think I
seems
might
to
even try to do it a little further
Yeah.
ahead of that.
Okay,
So if you could get on Tuesday,
I'm thinking even Monday.
yeah, okay,
Oh, that would.
yeah, that would be great.
Because if I'm gonna
Our
put the-
agendas haven't been that complicated. since-
Yeah, and I'm gonna start putting the recordings on the website, and I can probably go back and look and see what older ones I can do on that for the
Okay.
workshops for
Oh,
sure.
cool. Okay.
The YouTube's already linked.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so that.
that way, because the minutes for the council meeting where they are right now is really quick and easy to put together. It's not that,
Okay.
not too bad. And then having the recordings on there will help with the
I think
the
that's
comments. so.
plenty, yeah, plenty of that way to inform.
because
everybody.
then folks
So,
like,
yeah,
it's there, you
Well,
know,
and
you
plus
may
then
have to
you're-
take some time if
Yeah.
you really want to, but.
but then you're not spending forever on minutes, which I
Yeah.
totally understand that, so, yeah, okay.
Okay, so we're good on this?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
All right. We have a rule.
Oh.
Go ahead, please.
I move we adjourn, recess until 7.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
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 Sorry, hold on.
No discussion, no discussion, no recess.
You seconded, you did, okay, thank you.
This
I had too much going on there, okay.
This is an ordinance.
What?
This isn't.
Hold on, Jen.